Hello and welcome. And I forgot to turn off the playback on the Twitch control panel, so that was about to melt my brain. To DC30 and our 100th episode special. Hey, God. It has been a trip, hasn't it? It is weird to think about where we started versus where we are now, and it's just really cool to see how everything's evolved and how, I don't know, this stream is something special. This campaign in the stream is something special to me. I hope it is for you guys as well. Hello to everyone out there in the audience. We appreciate you guys being here. First and foremost, I would be remiss if I said it did not give me a great pleasure to welcome back Alex, or Jason the Centaur, and Keanu the Minotaur for 1 or 2 games, I believe.
God, yeah.
That was some cool artwork of that character. That's
I had that framed on my wall.
Well, we know him first. I remember I had him. I made sure they got here. Yeah, we know you first and foremost as Jason the Centaur. Strong, noble father figure of the group. Frequent victim of Eslin's wayward mace swings whenever Paige rolled a natural 1, which was very often.
Yeah.
And purveyor of fine birds that would take you out for a day.
Oh, God, yeah. Jesus. I mean, I was half horse, so it's literally like, what's the biggest thing you can hit?
Yeah. But yeah, it's great to have you back, man. Well and truly, I often asked myself, what would things look like now if things had been different? Just in the sense of, because that's not really a spoiler. I had the pieces of Divinity, or at least the outline for them, planned out very early on, and there were multiple concepts for your piece of Divinity, because you changed gods once at one point, so I decided to adopt things and sort of make like shifts and changes. It's interesting to think about other branching paths.
How the party could have been. Yeah.
Or just like what might be different. I was about to say, would Helida be as chaotic with a strong father figure to rein her in? And I was like, no, yeah, she would have been 100% the same. Nothing would have changed. Just Jason's hair
would even be worse.
Jason's hair would have turned grey very quickly.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, character-wise, my hair is grey now. Like, I have a time job, my hair is grey.
But yeah, Distill's Place, thank you, lurking with you. I hope you have a great Sunday as well. So yeah, tonight's gonna be really informal. It's a bit of a round table. Rebecca, you're far better at steering these sorts of things than I am, so I may defer to you a little bit in terms of general outline. I guess I would just ask you guys, do we want to go stories first? Do we want to open up some basic questions first and foremost? I don't have a strict game plan, so I'm amenable.
Well, I suppose it would help. Like, does everyone have questions for everyone else that they want to throw out to each other, or does everyone need time to think of some?
I mean, I got some I can think of, but we can also sort of go one at a time, story-wise, or something like that, and then ask questions specifically. Okay, in that case, shall we roll for it?
Oh God.
Okay. Does everybody have access to a D20?
D20.
Naturally.
Hey, love that.
What's a D20?
Something you have thousands of in your home, and I know that for a fact.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right. Natural
What did you
1.
roll?
Are we doing highest goes first? Highest goes first?
I don't know if we established that. I was thinking lowest goes first.
I think we should establish it before that. Because...
Okay.
Rerolls?
So what do we prefer? Highest goes first or lowest goes first?
Highest goes first.
Highest goes first?
Highest goes
Okay.
first.
Reroll.
Oh God. Oh no.
Oh,
Natural 18.
one.
Oh, I
4.
rolled an 8. Fuck.
3.
11.
2. Yay! Oh.
Oh, of all the times to roll low.
Ali?
3.
Rebecca?
Oh.
Nat 20, baby.
Ooh.
Yay.
I originally rolled with the 5, so I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but
All right, so Rebecca goes first.
so are we doing like story stuff, or
What did you prepare?
I mean, I prepared a story.
Yeah, we'll start with the story, and then we can gear the questions around Bithynia specifically, or sort of that sort of thing. And then we can roll again, and then basically we can divide the questions or like question time by character specific.
Okie dokie. Okay, so
Is that all right?
No, it is. I didn't proofread what I read, so this is gonna be like the telephone game, but with myself. So this is fine. My character has intelligence, not me. It's fine. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. So Bithynia, warlock, early years, totally into book stuff. Yeah. Okay. So chapter 1, Starlust. Nimble hands swiftly lifted the end of the cream-colored lace embroidered with gold stars around Atonia's right hand before looping it under Bryson's palm. One loop after the other, they stood with their hands bound. Bryson raised his free hand to wipe a tear from Atonia's cheek as it inched toward her smile. Melody's oracle, Corythia, finished knotting the end of the lace ribbon, continuing with her words. Starlust on your mind, sun power in your heart, your grace with the galaxies and Theros for your new start. And with that, Melody's oracle finished the ceremony for her daughter, well-known Melody's engineer, Atonia, and her Theros partner, Bryson. One from the city, one from nature, bound together on this plane and beyond. Chapter 2. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Stars shine, glimmer, glitter, illuminate their space day and night, cycles of light and darkness alongside the sun that can't be undone. The moon that, despite waxing and waning, shines the same without explaining. 9 months and 3 days following the waterside marital ceremony, Corythia made the journey back to Theros. She comforted her daughter in the early stages of labor. I've lived the past and present and understand your future to some degree, including the cycle of life within our family tree. There will be 2 lions, one friend and one foe. Corythia, accompanied by assistants, helped prepare Atonia. She neared the birth of her first child. Do you have a name yet, Atonia? Corythia asked. Well, we'll know it when it happens, and if it takes years, so be it. You cannot rush a star's name. Chapter 3. As the sun and moon shared the sky, days turned to hours, and the birth was near. Bryson waited nearby, waiting for word that his child... I'm sorry, someone is not muted, and I can hear you. Oh, no. Who is that? Someone not muted? Okay. Sorry. I'm like super sensitive, like drinking and eating sounds, and I'm like, I can hear this. Okay, so chapter 3. As the sun and moon shared the sky, days turned to hours, and birth was near. Bryson waited nearby, waiting for word that his first child and successor to his family name would begin. He paced outside along the shore in anticipation, deep in excitement and thought. Will they explore the caves of galaxies with me? He pondered. Will they do great things in the city like their mother, or love for nature like me? I hope they have the ability to inspire others to build great things like their mother. I hope they have an inside I hope they have a insight for nature. As he paced outside, inside the scene was chaotic. The handmaids rushed to replace the ruby red silk sheets in the late hours of the day. Atonia entered the final stages of labor. With focused breathing and the guidance of her mother, she gave birth. Corythia stood by her daughter's side, holding her hand and wiping the sweat from her face. They watched as the handmaids cleaned, swapped, and swaddled the baby girl. Another tended to Atonia's wounds. The sanguine scene had taken its toll on those around, but worst of all, Atonia. Noting the decreasing pressure and the grip Atonia had on her hand, Corythia noticed a fading look on Atonia's face. Hours turned to minutes, and she was gone. The blood loss was too much. Chapter 3, Cloaked Companionship. Corythia returned to Melody's, where she came from, wishing for her granddaughter to remain with her extended family. She grew close to her extensive family, nature and adventure her father took her on. A secret adventure they shared frequently to the Cave of Constellations. He taught her the importance of leaving nature as intended so the next generation could appreciate it. She loved her aunts greatly in the variety of areas they paid special care to, the mountains, the sea, the forest too, documenting things as she went, enjoying the whimsy and wonder of Theros. Chapter 4. First there was a foe. The biggest upset came at the age of 5. The outdoor learning and adventures came to an end when she was placed in a schoolroom setting. Forced into learning at home, she longed for the days she loved with her father, his enjoyment of nature, showing the same kindness for crabs in the tide pools as he did for the task of taking care of gardens around the city. Every minute she had with him was bookmarked in her brain, riding on his shoulders to get a closer look at the birds on a branch, or his ability to get into a library early to check out new books before they were available to the general public. His sisters shared the same love for nature in different directions. She enjoyed the company of the sisters to the north near the mountains and their development with caves and the gems within. Her aunts to the south shared a love for the forests and favored fauna. His sisters to the east were more into the grasslands and earth as a whole, and his sisters in the marsh of the west were more involved in spores and mold. She loved them, the variety of learning they imparted on her. On one adventure, on behalf of the city, he assured her that he would not be gone long and would return. The city had a need for someone familiar with the new area, possibly for preservation. He gave her a kiss on the forehead before leaving and said, "The rotation of 2 nights and I will be back." Sadly, this new area proved to be more dangerous, and he would not. An untamed area, unmarked and underdeveloped, housed creatures of ferocity and toxicity not yet known. On the first night of the expedition, a foe in the form of a lion took Bryson's life. Chapter 5. Violent Precipitation. The girl who had yet to be named was now without her mother, who had built many great things for Milites. The girl who had yet to be named was now without her father, who had built the best childhood so far. Her aunts that had raised her were grief-stricken around the world. Her aunts north, near the mountains, cried for days and created mudslides. Her aunts to the south flooded the forests. Her aunts created a world that wasn't safe for a child. Afar, noticing the destruction of the world around her, made note and a deal. She created a constellation with each of the sisters involved. Her aunts to the east that had flooded the prairies, and her aunts to the west that had flooded and drowned the marshes. Noticing the last remaining member surrounded by violent precipitation, she had pity on the orphan girl. "You'll return to where your mother came from. You have uncles and Milites who will offer you support." And with that, a name, Bithynia. And that is what I have.
Aww.
Damn.
A little backstory.
Little backstory. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so it was interesting. One of the interesting things that I looked up was that I found this lore that's in mythology that that happened where there were they, I think, deities, but they drowned the world and they were made into a constellation.
Yeah, so there is evidence that some kind of enormous flood happened roughly 10,000 years ago or something to that effect, and basically it echoes throughout so many different cultures and fables because there was some sort of a world flood that happened around that time. I don't remember the specifics of the flood fable off the top of my head. I think it was something to do with 2 giants remained at the end of it, and they sort of sprouted new humanity from clay or something to that effect. I'll have to double check that. I do have a question actually for you, Rebecca.
I have one comment to make before the question, though, because
Okay.
this is an interesting thing that I brought to the character's backstory without looking up Bithynia or the name. And the meaning of the name Bithynia means violet precipitation. So I'm like, the irony and like the happenstance that this part of lore happened to deal with violent like precipitation. I'm like, it's like kismet. Like I've never looked up what Bithynia means, and I was like, oh, this is very random that I've had at least an hour talking about lore and stuff with Romeo, and then I'm like, oh, this is all meant to be. This makes sense. Okay, Romeo now.
Do you, in what ways, if any, do you think Bithynia might have been different if we'd gone with a traditional charisma-based warlock instead of your very unique intelligence-based warlock build? for those who in the audience who don't know, Bithynia's very specific Sphinx Warlock patron uses intelligence as the spellcasting modifier instead of charisma.
I think that it might have lent more to her druidic father side of the family, because when Ruby and I were talking about making her as humanistic as possible, I tried making the father side of the family more druid-like. So that's when we were talking about like the ground and the earth and the stars and things like that, like having this very nature-based, and then the mom who's more like artificer. I think that the charisma might have gone more nature, and she might not have been as city-like, maybe, because she's
I think
very
that makes
much
sense. Like a Fey
connected
Warlock
to-
flavored to be like an Archdryad. I totally see that.
I think that she would have been more, just more like attuned to nature, more
That was definitely something I was keen on when we were building. When the original idea of like a human character was pitched to me, so Rebecca was, or Bithynia, I guess, was the first character to be brought on in, let's call it the 2.0 era, after the original turnaround. And at that point, it had been a Ganassi, a shifter at the start as well. There was a satyr, a leonin, even the most human of them was still a half nymph. So I was really intrigued by, in an almost sort of like way that echoes Batman in the JLA, or is in JLU, just a very human character who's not unexceptional in that, but they're not otherworldly. As in, they just achieve through effort. They are, flesh and bone, and but they stand as tall as as the rest of them in terms of. I was just really intrigued by that sort of idea of a very human character and the idea of humanity in that respect. In the same way as like Batman is just a man standing next to otherworldly beings. So I was really excited, and I think it sort of made for a really unique character.
Yeah, and I'm curious how it would have turned out too, because originally I had thought about Loxodon, and I wanted to play Triton as well, and I'm curious how that would have been if we had 2 Tritons in the party. However, like as we were talking, it's like, well, would a Triton be in a library? Like that's like far removed, and like the Loxodon thing wasn't. So I think that it was a good merriment of both lore, existing storyline, and future story stuff. And so I think it'll be also interesting. Is it Theros, not Theros, the part that her dad came from?
Theros, the city Theros, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept too, that area outside of Melitis. And
yeah, it would have been. I wish I had had the foresight to fully flesh out Theros to the extent that I did from the beginning. I think because Alex, you don't know this. I came up with a whole bunch of extra cities and lore. It sort of expanded out, and there were a bunch of extra gods that weren't there at the start. Well, then there was some of them extra gods there at the start, but I sort of just really did like a expansion at one point, and I think the world is better for it. It's I've always said there's great foundations in the Theros source book, but I don't know that they went far enough.
I think one of the interesting things about this, though, is that one of the things that Bithynia had said is that she wanted to go on an adventure. So it was like she had like 5 solid years of adventuring. And then as she went to Melitis, it was straight boarding school. So when Tempest came up, that was her first opportunity. She's like, no, I want to go out on the boat, because that's probably like the only thing she hadn't been able to do. And she hadn't gone out adventuring since her dad died. And so Tempest was a way for her to get out and do that.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Shall we roll again?
I do.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tamara.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's not quite related to the backstory that you just told, but more to, well, Bithynia overall. I mean, you've been with the game for a super long time now, and I was curious to hear what you think. Like Bithynia, like where did she develop the most? Like in that time, or just as a character since first joining the group or the game?
Maybe Al. Oh, that's hard. Just she/I am stubborn. So I don't know. Like, I think that where she developed. I mean, she's stuck with going out and staying out. Like, I think that in of itself. I think maybe. I don't know if monogamy counts, but she's consistently being connected to Zoe probably more than she has been to anybody else that's been joked about. That has been like a series of silly like engagements. So I think that maybe I don't want to say loyalty, but maybe monogamy might be a thing that's been in the area, or like being dedicated to one thing for longer than a minute. Yeah, I think that's an area that she's grown. I think also, I wouldn't say letting other people take the lead, but also like, she excels when it comes to like intelligence or like checks that are involved in research or anything like that. But there's been more than one thing where I/she have been doing something where she's just like, okay, go for it. Like, what do you know? You know, instead of, you know, because I can consistently roll with like 30s or whatever. So I think that that's like an area of growth, or like asking, like when we were on the island and asking like Baktios' character, like, well, you're more outdoorsy than I am. Where would you go? Like, what would you do? And like being more like whatever, where she would just do it. I don't know. I wouldn't say humbled, but like just more involved. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but was more trusting, maybe.
Trusting or wisdom. There's a Socrates line. I'm gonna butcher it. Something like, the only true knowledge is knowing you know nothing, or something like that, or like knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. I would definitely agree that learning to trust in her friends, and learning that she's not alone anymore. She doesn't have to go at it alone and rely only on herself. Has definitely been incredibly important. It was an incredibly profound developmental moment for Bithynia.
I think that would be it.
Wonderful. Shall we roll again? Okay.
All right.
All but Rebecca, of course. I rolled a 4 again.
13 again.
I rolled a 2. I
16.
rolled a 3 and a 2 tonight.
11.
Sammy?
4.
Oh no.
16 wins.
Oh no. Okay. Well, give me a moment.
It's just all scotch in there.
Hey, you know my secret. Okay. Any questions beforehand, or should I just jump straight in, give some context first? What?
Can I ask one question just for my own amusement?
Sure.
If I hadn't elected to give you those gauntlets of ogre power, or gauntlets of the Leviathan, how different do you think Xanthia's story would have been?
I think she might have multiclassed earlier. Yeah.
What's your strength without the gauntlets again?
13 or 14. It's real bad.
I was just really like, when you built the character originally, like, oh, a paladin is more like a mage-like character. That was like super unique, like, is in a good way. I was very curious to see how that would play out. And you've definitely lent harder into the support than any paladin I've ever DM'd for or played with, and I think that's really cool.
Support circle.
Oh, Alex doesn't know the story. We have to catch him up at some point. Basically, like, more than one NPC that they've been fighting with has said to them, can somebody other than me hit this thing? While they basically do like the Jerry Smith shaking hands with them. It's like, hi, Jerry Smith. Like, okay, I inspire him and I give bless to her and I use enhance ability on them, and it's just been funny. Sorry, I cut you off, Tamara. Would you like to?
No, but I think that a support circle is definitely needed in D&D. So thank you for your service. We bow to your kindness.
Fair.
All hail,
Thank you.
all hail.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna sour the mood real quick with the backstory that I prepared. So hope you enjoy.
Well, it's gonna make me
Question
feel
mark?
better about mine if you're going to be the one to sour the mood.
I'm just gonna do it first. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna give you like a few sentences of like context or motivation of why I decided for this. Just so don't have to jump straight in. So Alex, just for your like context for you, we recently finished like a part of Xanthia's character arc where she had to confront her backstory in quite a violent way. And I thought it would be nice to like kind of touch up on that a little bit and like resurface some of that trauma even more, because that's always fun.
Alex, remember that ancient blue dragon token I was showing you on my laptop in the break room whilst I was working on it?
Yeah, the one you exclusively said, oh yeah, they're messed up.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, they have no idea what they're expecting. I was like, oh yeah, cool, that's lovely. And I was like, yo, that party is dead.
Yeah, that's what killed Xanthia's parents.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. Lovely.
Ah.
Okay. So we start out in total silence. Silence that is only ever so slightly disturbed by the muffled sound of the occasional shuddering sigh and the weak beating of an aching heart. Surrounded by rubble, crystal outcrops, and remnants of carnage, a young female triton is lying on the ocean floor, in what she only remembers used to be lush kelp fields. She blinks, and just for a split second, she is taken back to a mild summer day, just shortly after she had turned 7 years old. A voice calls out to her. "Xanthia, come quick! They're here!" Rushing through the verdant kelp fields towards her grandfather and back to her home. Seeing the smiling but exhausted faces of her mother and father, each holding a little bundle in their arms. Meet your brother and sister, Focus and Daphne. She shuts her eyes quickly, trying to force the painful memory away. But to no avail. A heartbeat later, it is as if she was sitting with her younger siblings in her grandfather's hut again, listening to his grandiose stories for what must surely be the 100th time now. Tales from his time in the Theros War, fighting to fulfill his oath of devotion. Tales that kindled her convictions, her sense of compassion, her never-ending optimism. Convictions that motivated her every action in her youth. She remembers how happy she was as a child, when she spent her afternoons playing hide-and-seek in underwater waterfalls, racing her friends through the deep-sea trenches. How happy she was still in her adolescence, even while desperately trying to balance helping out on her family's kelp farm, looking after her rambunctious siblings, and attending her grandfather's combat lessons. And how years later this happiness grew into boundless excitement when her parents told her that they would support her in moving to the grand port city of Melites to pursue her dream of following in her grandfather's footsteps. Then, like a tidal wave, reality returns, and with it the heartache, the regret. She turns her head to the side, once again taking in the devastation, trying her best to overlook the almost unrecognizable corpses at the edge of her vision, ignoring what's left of the molten faces of her former neighbors, friends, even the boy she shared her first kiss with just before leaving her hometown behind. Instead, she looks beyond the field's debris, her eyes landing on the coalesced rubble that once was her home so many years ago. All too well, she can visualize the teenage twins lounging outside and enjoying the warm summer waves when last she came to visit. They were excited as always, and in the beginning her own emotions had matched the enthusiasm. Over time, however, those feelings had slowly drifted towards something colder. Indifference, impatience, irritation. Feelings that she did not even try to hide from her parents. Why did she even have to come back here to celebrate some mundane birthday or whatever, when there was still so much training to be done back in Melodies. She swallows hard and thinks of the words she wishes she could have said back then. I love you, Mother. Happy birthday. But the memory of the things she did say are too loud, too painful to ignore. You're holding me back, can't you see that? I don't need you, so just stay out of my life already. She blinks again as the memory fades. The underwater silence feels more deafening than ever, as she absent-mindedly rakes her hand through the crystallized sand, either not noticing or not caring about the sharp edges piercing her skin once more. Slowly, as she takes another shallow breath, she closes her eyes as if admitting defeat. But what she finds is not comforting darkness, but a vision clad in bright coral red. The extending hand of a colossal mere-woman crowned with regal pincers. Then a soft, echoing voice. Get up, child. You have much to do.
Damn.
That hurts.
Hashtag sad fish lady.
Why are all the fish ladies so sad in this campaign?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I'd had you guys face Astraphis before I had you guys undertake the entire journey with Atmos and the inward journey that Purphoros, the lesson that Purphoros taught you all, do you think Xanthia may have responded differently to that whole situation? Because I did pick, it did strike me that Xanthia was I guess I would, maybe it's not, uncharacteristic is not the right word, but it was, I did note how cool-headed she was in what could very well have been a very triggering situation for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, when they were back in Melodies and like researching like what could be behind her home's destruction for the first time, and when she saw like the fulgurite crystals in Melodies for the first time, I think she had a panic attack there basically. So, and now she was just like very dismissive of everything, like still angry, but I think if they had faced Astraphis before all of that, she would have been a lot more self-destructive. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, when I designed the entire Mount Velos arc, the core of it was something that I benefited from, just a lesson I was taught for my own mental health recently, which was the importance of validation. You know, when you think of, I guess, therapy or like, betterment of your mental health, you don't associate it with a god of like fire and volcanism. But, the whole point was it's okay to externalize. Like, don't turn it inwards. Anger turned inwards just becomes depression. And his whole thesis is it's good to get it out. And so it was in like, your feelings are valid and it is okay to be angry. Because then once you are angry, you can then cease to be angry. Because, your anger is the part of you that knows you deserve to be treated right. Your anger is the part of you that loves you. So, when things went that way, I just thought it was super cool. Like, just in terms of like doing it in the reverse. Again, I've said this before. I love cliche. I love dodging cliches. I love intentionally going against the grain. And I was definitely trying to avoid Astraphis being your growth moment, if that makes sense. Because that would be expected. And I wanted to see if it could be done in an unexpected way. And if I do say so myself, I think I succeeded.
Yeah, I really like the moment in Mount Velos where she literally had to let go of her past in order to proceed. So I think that was really poetic. Any other questions?
I have a question. So there was like some RP back and forth between Bithynia and Xanthia where it was like, well, what do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? And like Xanthia with some other people too, because they're like, do you want to nuke it? Do you want to give him pity? Like, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. It's like,
What are we talking
do you
about?
think that there just like various RP that happened? There was like some back and forth about like what was wanted for it, because there's like, you know, some.
Oh, we're talking
some
about
RP.
Astraphis, like when you were debating
Yeah.
kill her or don't kill her.
Mhm. Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. So, like, do you think that would have been different for you, though? Like, if Bithynia or someone else was like, we have to nuke this no matter what? Because, like, you know, having that, like, cool-headed approach was something you were able to accomplish. But there was some RP leading up to that was like, what do you want to do? Or what do you think should happen? Or, you know, there's a lot of insight that was gathered leading up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think until like the very moment that they faced Astraphis, like Xanthia was prepared to kill her, but it's not necessarily what she wanted to do anymore. Like her hometown is gone. Like killing that dragon is not going to change that, but it might help other people in the future. Like because it might not do the same thing, but it's not what she like truly desired. Like she still is wondering like why did she do that? Like it was just a farming town.
Yeah, you guys never asked her.
Doesn't make sense. There's always next session.
I got more Van Gogh fuck yourself jokes lined up, don't you worry.
So yeah.
And then the other question I had through that fight, I told Romeo I had my plan. Where there's plan bomb, there was plan change your patron, change your pact. And I was like, so what do you think would happen if instead of like killing it, Bithynia drops her Sphinx and goes with this? And Romeo's like, I have a stat block, but it would come at this loss. And also, how would the party react if this one person was like, so I know you have this drama and this family history and this beef, but they're on our side and they're not leaving anymore?
Honestly, I think Xanthia would have started fighting Bithynia and stopped when she's unconscious.
Yeah, that
She wouldn't have killed her, but
I think as well, like I think the deal breaker for you was finding out that your party would drop to 0. It's like, of course. It's like,
that
you
was
know,
the real reason.
It's like asking your spouse, hey, if I cheat on you, can I like still live in the house that you bought? It's like, no.
I mean, my patron was kind of being a bitch leading up to that, so I was kind of like, you know.
Oh,
like,
he was being a bitch. And
so I was like, at least this one fights. Like, okay.
Good old Bithynia. Oh, my patron is in serious emotional distress. Should I look into that? Nah, like he's just dead to me already. Like,
should see someone about that.
Love it. Trying to think if. Oh, I have a question actually. Without giving away anything that the others haven't seen yet. How are you finding Atmos's new stat block?
Sexy.
Don't tell them
I
anything
think it
until
fits
you use
Xanthia
it.
really well. So
Yeah, that awakened ability was, I definitely designed it with Xanthia in mind.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the weapon is meant to be designed with you in mind, because it was.
And yeah, I'm really excited to try that out sometime soon.
Awesome. And on that note, shall we roll again? Man, I cannot roll to save my life.
I rolled a 2.
8.
19.
Oh boy.
Nice.
20.
16. Oh, fuck.
Awesome.
Natural 20?
Yes. Yeah, I guess I'm up.
All right, better up, Buttercup.
Oh, Ali's not there. I'll wait for him. Oh, you there? You there, Ali?
I am now. Sorry, yeah. I
Did
just
you
went
roll?
For a repeat real quick. Oh, yeah, sorry, real quick.
Just in case
3,
you-
again.
Cool. No,
Or are you
continue.
going to
Sammy
pull
got a natural 20.
Abacius and just not listen to Delisa's backstory?
I mean, that would be pretty on brand.
All right. Blood. Death and life, screaming and silence. A broken heart, now without its beat, sits in the chest cavity of a lifeless woman killed by her own hand. Love is something we all experience, both conventionally and atypically. Love can lead to the most beautiful of moments, and it can also lead to pure despair. Love is both a driver and a motivator. We all act in the name of love, even if we don't know it. Love for ourselves, love for another, or even love for a higher being. Love can fill us with ecstasy, or it can break you to a point of no return. In this case, the latter almost certainly applies. It was evident that whoever this individual was hanging from a tree on a remote island, her life was no more. This was her final chapter. But when one life ends, another begins. A pool of blood began to form on the ground below this now lifeless body, both from wound and from labor. There wasn't much time between this woman taking her last breath and the baby she had just given birth to taking its first. The silence that ominously filled the air was abruptly replaced by the screams of a newborn child as it bathed in the blood of its mother. It was a girl, born at midnight under the light of a new moon. To some, these details would mean nothing. To others, everything. Born in blood and alone, if this parentless child was to survive unaided on this island, she would certainly need some divine intervention. Fortunately for it, that help she needed had been watching over this whole ordeal the entire time. Tears flooded the starry night sky of the Nyx that day as the distraught Amaranthe, goddess of love, watched on as one of her closest disciples took her own life. However, in the midst of her agony, was able to witness the birth of this new life and knew that she had to do everything in her power to nurture and protect it. Her first act would be to bestow a name upon the child. In homage to her late mother, who was known for her subtleness, Amaranthe settled on the name Dolisa. When a god witnesses the birth of a child in this way, the child is inherently known as a Nyxborn. Born from the minds of the gods, the creatures that populate the gods' realm are called Nyxborn. Nyxborn creatures resemble mortal beings, but philosophers debate their true character. Are they idolized forms of mortal beings, free from the imperfections and transience that cause mortals to suffer and die? Or are they hollow and soulless shades, lacking the authenticity and pathos to make mortal existence worthwhile? Undisclosed tales only strengthen Dolisa's heritage as a Nyxborn, but she would never grow up to know who or what she is. Perhaps not immediately anyway. But the scars her mother's actions caused that fateful day will always remain inside of her, unbeknownst and harrowing. Whilst Amaranthe's heart swayed from despair to hope, watching all of this unfold from the Nyx, there was another that instead reveled in the chaos of it all. An opportunist that saw a fresh piece of fruit ripe for the picking. The shadowy and mysterious figure of the masked patron, Fenax, giggled and smirked from afar, seeing what he would describe as a blank canvas ready to be molded to his will. As the years went on, Amaranthe, with the help of the magical nature of the island, was able to channel her divinity, helping Dolisa to feed and grow. At the same time, Fenax would also pay visits to the child in secret, away from the watchful eye of the goddess of love, slowly imbuing the child with his own deceitful magic. Her body and mind were subsequently in a tug-of-war between the two gods, with one seeking to protect and the other seeking to manipulate. Eventually, Dolisa came of age and left the island, setting sail towards the mainland and the city of Delathon. A girl who grew up without parents never knew any differently, but who exactly were her parents? What happened to her father? Who is her father? And is he still alive in this present day? In fact, was there even a father to begin with? Dolisa doesn't know the answers to these questions, nor who she is herself. Yet this story ends with the girl devoid of history, rowing her way to a new life and new beginnings.
Oh,
I'm going to steal a question from one Brennan Lee Mulligan, because I just thought it was a cool question when he asked it during the EXU Calamity Roundtable. Which class do you think Delisa was first?
So I thought about this. I think practically when I made it, I went bard first and then cleric at second level. It's hard to really know. I think she could do more as a bard on a desolate island, and kind of just practice music and things of that nature. So I think it made more sense to go bard first, and then once she got to Delathon and she started helping people and healing people, then she became a cleric in that, right? But you could totally argue either way.
I think that makes sense. You know, dabbled in sort of, I guess, full pietdom, but realized it ultimately wasn't for her because it was too restricting, and so took those lessons away, but did not develop it further than she did. I think that works quite nicely.
All quiet on the Western Front.
There was such a lore drop. Like,
to be honest, there's been a lot from multiple people that I'm just trying. It's just a lot to just keep. Well,
I'm especially nervous what my story's going to do to you, Scotty.
I can confirm she was conceived by midichlorians, by the way, just in case everyone was wondering.
okay, I do have a question though.
Yes.
Back, like in the beginning of Delisa's time with Tempest up into the Mount Velis arc, whenever she had like the weird mask, was that a nod to Phanax, or can you now tell us more about that?
Yeah, no, that was that was him just trying to kind of like physically rear his head in some way. Again, just trying to play into that like tug of war that I talked about. Like it was him trying to influence her and him have like more power over her than what Amaranthe did and has.
And I believe part of the shift, and stop me, Sammy, if this is giving too much away, but part of the shift came after we clarified exactly how piety works.
Yes.
There was a just clarifying conversation had where I sort of explained how piety is something you actively work towards. Like you do deeds in the service of it. It's not like a like creeping warlocky type patronage influence. It's something you do deeds in the name of this deity. You do things that they like, and then you build them meter, and it gives you new powers. And based off of that, the influence of Phanax got, I guess, not remodeled, but there was a perspective shift, I think is fair to say, which I thought was interesting. It was a fun arc, and it led to a very interesting moment in that private conversation that Delisa had.
With Daxos, is that the one you're referring to? Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of her spells that I chose for her are kind of orientated towards, like someone of Phanax's nature, kind of deceitful and stealthy and things of that nature. So that's kind of where that plays in as well.
I'm just glad I got to use the token I had commissioned for Summon Underworld Guardian, because the person that was originally meant for was no longer a player, and that thing cost me 40 quid to commission.
Yeah, and that spell specifically is because Phanax escaped the underworld, so that spell and like the Phantasmal Plunge, and when I kind of give it flavor, it's all kind of specific to Phanax.
Hey, we got a violet. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Tired.
I feel that. You look pretty.
Thank yous. And I
How many of us are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
A
You
lot.
don't count. 8. There's a lot of people.
There's a familiar face.
I know. I can see Alex.
Hello, darling.
Hi, lovely. This is so weird seeing you on a Sunday.
I know, we've gone back in time.
Mm-hmm.
We were just having chit chats and dropping lore bombs and things like that.
Yeah, I heard Sammy's. I was just like, wait, what? Who? When? What? Anyway, continue with the stories of the answer questions.
Right, let's see what you think over here. You know a thing or two about decoration. Look at you.
I'll ask another one. Just again, my own selfish queries. What was your exact reaction when I dropped the license? I know you weren't there, and it breaks my heart that you couldn't have been there for that particular lore drop. But what was your exact reaction when I dropped that little bomb?
Yeah, well, I had COVID at the time, so I spent all day in bed, and then I just jumped out of bed. And I was like, "There's no way you just dropped that name." So yeah, it was pretty hype. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, when you gave me that backstory, and I had the stuff with the triplets already and the entire Nicefis arc, I was like, it's like when someone gives you like puzzle piece isn't the right word because it wasn't necessarily something missing from the original, but it's like it's like an extra like SSD drive or like a flash drive for a PC. It's like, oh, I do have an extra slot, and this slides right in, and that is some extra goodie. So
yeah,
it just like was just able to be morphed onto that existing stuff so well that I was like, awesome.
Yeah, I think there's more to unravel there, but I think someone of Bithynia's intelligence can put 2 and 2 together because she's the only one that's heard Delisa speak that name at the minute. But yeah, do you have any kind of theories, thoughts on what Delisa said to Bithynia, Rebecca? Or
No.
No.
I mean, I do, but we wrote so much for them. What if I do? I don't know. I don't want to meta it. Like, I don't.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
I feel like there's both. I think that the dynamic that we've created has like the balance of like intrigue but openness, but also tension, where it's like very sisterly in a way, but also not. So I think that like, yeah, it's fun. It's a fun dynamic, and it's different than I think the other connections, both in history and connection. Whereas we have the 2 Acronians, we have the 2 of us that have an extensive past together. So whether or not they admit to that stuff to the other people in the party is up to them and or circumstance, I guess.
yeah.
All right, shall we roll?
2 the D20s.
Here we go.
I am not rolling well tonight.
14.
10.
4.
5. I'm changing
7.
my dice.
Yeah, I'm changing my dice as well. Alex wins.
I'm just getting eager. Oh, here we go.
Well,
Dun, 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 dun.
so I thought I'd do something quite special on this one, Romeo. So this is effectively going to be like first person telling. However, it's going to be from the notes that you sent me back in the 11th of the 9th, 2020. So we're going back, boy.
And I have a goldfish memory, so this is like I'm going to be experiencing it for the first time.
Well, because like when you told me like, oh, come up with something, I said, hey, I wonder when you actually created the character. But yeah, So 2020, I did. Yeah, it's kind of depressing to actually see that number, but anyway. So, I was only a small child when they took me. Things, murderers, slavers. They took me away and they kept me in chains. And for many years, the only life I knew was that of forced combat in an arena hidden within the mountains. Lowlifes from four corners of Theros would come to gamble on the fights between me and my brethren. And for so many years we suffered at the hands of those bandits, fought to fight and kill for their entertainment. It wasn't long before I had to plan an escape. And one day, after earning the trust of my captors, I managed to swipe a key, and with my brethren unshackled, we slaughtered every last one of the monsters that held us all prisoner, and razed that fort to the ground. With our newfound freedom, me, other centaurs, minotaurs, satyrs, and all manner of beings held prisoner were set out to start our own herd, finding community in our shared tragedy. Thus, the Camino's herd was founded, a herd that welcomed outcasts and resided in Theros. I never did try to find my old herd again. I feared that I'd be deemed lost to them, and it was just better to start anew. For many years, I lived happy, hunting, fighting, and enjoying life with my new community. I even found love, the love of a centaur woman named Pelia, and I had 3 beautiful children, a son, Gonoria, and 2 daughters, Nasina and Carice. I raised my children to be proud warriors like myself, to fight with honor and face their fears. One day, however, my son came across some fleeting outlaws, thieves and assassins who were acolytes of Phanex, the god of deception. They lied to his face in an attempt to enter his good graces and take advantage of my boy. But in his wise insight, he saw them for what they truly were. He took them down, allowing them to be captured by the Mediterranean authorities who had been chasing them. This angered the god, however, whose plot to subvert authority had been thwarted. The god vowed the worst kind of revenge and placed a curse upon me. That night I saw nothing but my half-hearted enemies, and I fought for my life. But when I awoke, I saw the dead bodies of my family. Pelia, Gonoria, Nasia, and Carice, all at my own hand. Mad with grief, I exiled myself, seeking redemption through my connection to Iroas. I spent many years wandering these lands, finding mercenary work where I could get by, and I waited for a sign from Iroas on what my next path would be. And that led me to a boat.
I might be a bad person.
No, I mean, it's kind of because when we talked about it, we did kind of come up with this concept, and I was just like, I basically want to play a God of War.
That makes 2 that we've had in this campaign so far.
Hey, you say Greek fantasy, and I'm just like, I want to kill the gods.
Man, if I had a nickel for every almost 7-foot tall player who wanted to create God of War in my campaign, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird to have.
I have an actual in-world reason for that.
I know, I'm just joshing.
Yeah,
it's just like poetry, it rhymes.
2020, mate. God knows how many games have passed since then.
Mad.
I know, right? Because Jason came in even to your guys' campaign quite late into it.
Yeah, well, you guys were like level 4, I think.
We
but you
landed on Melodies at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't that late. It was like...
Yeah.
We've done New Player Starter Island.
Yeah, it was just after the tutorial. So honestly, all things considered, it was pretty early.
Yeah.
Considering...
Yeah, but still, only me and Morse have been here since, episode 1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Only Amalia's managed to somehow get through from...
Yeah, and I still don't understand how.
There's still time. I do have a question for you, though, Alex. Did you ever hear or see the episode with the mirror of Clothis?
No. What episode is this? I will literally watch it tonight.
I don't know. to be honest. So you have to.
I can probably find it.
Yeah, find it.
Yeah, if you can
So,
find it, let me know.
But yeah, so there was basically it was a mirror that we came across that you could ask any one question and you could see what see the answer. It could be any question like what is, what was,
Yeah.
what could be. If you asked more than one question, the mirror broke. We discovered, and I think we got 3 questions out of it, and one of them was how's Jason doing?
Aww.
And we got Romy. Do you remember the description you gave?
No, I don't.
So it was really good. So kind of like Scotty was like, oh, we can ask these things. Actually, something I really want to know is that how Jason is doing. And we got the image of sort of like a small kind of thatched cottage somewhere that seemed to be fairly unassuming. The smell of like roast meat, and we just saw you an older, more slightly more weathered with everything going a little bit grey, if I remember correctly, and just preparing your supper, quiet but content.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And it was it was a good moment. I remember that quite well.
Okay, it might be episode 50, Rocky Paths, or 49 or. Wow, these are not in the right order. Oh no, sorry. Rocky Paths is after Bad Moon Rising. So yes, you guys were in the mountains. I'm gonna hesitantly say episode 50. I can try to find the moment for you at some point in the next week and let you know what that moment was. But yeah, I had to think on my feet for that one. 2 seconds. I need more wine. You guys are
the follow-up question I have to that is what is Jason doing now?
So like very kind of uninspired in some ways. I've like over the years again also Jason was my second character and probably first proper campaign that I played. So since then, and creating more characters and especially different classes and stuff, I realized that he really suits a hunter now. So basically, he's a big old ranger hunter. He still has like his old stuff, like his shield and weapon, but rarely uses it. But very much not too dissimilar to kind of how they shifted Kratos from Greek mythology to Norse mythology and that element. Jason now is very much like still very big dad energy, but it's way more kind of subdued and much more like if he's got one last hurrah in him, it would be the one that he will 100% like lay down his life entirety to like defend the party as it was.
I mean, just say the word, I will bring you back for a guest spot. If nothing else, because I'm very curious to see Botch and Jason interact.
That would be. I think it would go down quite well, actually.
I think so. I didn't mean that in a
I'm
bad
definitely
way.
down.
It's going to be the battle of the deep voices.
it's the two of them. My voice. The audio sound.
I've not heard them for ages. They're just growling.
Yeah.
Our voice just becomes brown noise at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say the audio is just one hum.
I feel like it would be like a Thor and Star-Lord kind of like thing
who's in
going
charge?
on, but with, like deep voices.
You mocking me? He seems to be copying me.
Oh yeah, no. Botch is definitely Thor.
I will take that comparison every day of the week.
Oh no.
By the way, I checked my notes, and episode 50 is with the mirror.
Hey, well done.
Damn, I'm good.
Like, your note taking is bloody good.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's really good note taking.
Cool.
My notes have. I still have. Do I have any Jason-related notes around that thing? I think all I had at the moment was. I think there's a moment in my notebooks that just says hills, climbing hard, give. Give climbing gear to someone, and that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to
Centaurs are
confess
notorious
something.
for it, yeah.
Those slippers of spider
see,
climbing.
I have. Sorry, go on.
I was saying, the slippers of spider climbing I dropped as loot really early on were 100% me looking at the amount of headaches that Jason's mobility issues would cause me and the party and going, yeah, no.
I have been looking into like Centaur, like for a potential future character, and I'm looking into going. Ooh, climbing speed.
Yeah, you basically can't climb without the aid of everyone. So it's either one or two options. You either get the slippers, or the whole of the party climbs up before you, throws a rope down, ties it around your body, and then just
fucking
yeets.
counter
Yeah.
What's that episode of Family Guy where they all carry Joe up the stairs?
Yeah, that's exactly
It's
what
like,
I'm thinking.
thanks, guys. Yeah.
It's either that or I was just imagining having a sensor that just has like blink and then just basically recreating ropes from which are just randomly appearing on various objects. How the fuck have you got up there?
I mean, to be fair, if it was any kind of spellcasting class that has levitate, it would literally just be a case of just being dragged along like a balloon.
Yep. Or just befriend another rock, and it'll pick the whole many times. But no, it happened enough times that it became a thing. We're like, oh no, big bird, run away.
It happened twice.
Well, see, in my
Yes,
notes,
and twice is
Oh,
enough.
Alex, you don't know about the rock episode, do you? Did I tell you about the rock episode?
You would have been scared.
It's a big bird.
It's a very big.
Yes, it tried to eat them midair. And then they met a dragon
Well,
that was
see,
3
in
times
my
bigger than that.
notes-
It was a fucking random
got-
encounter after I rolled a nat 1 on that. That still haunts me.
I believe
in my
as
notes,
well.
I've got Jason equals dad plus bird. No, big no. Run away.
Yeah, from what I remember, I think of that episode. I think I was picked up and like dragged out like partially over a cliff.
That was the episode that everyone turned around and went away from the.
But it was over open water. You guys would have been fine.
Yeah, I think it was more the drop and people.
Jason
like,
wasn't.
yeah, if we're gonna drop a horse in plate as well, it's just like, oh god.
Shall we roll?
Shall we roll?
I
Yes.
have
Sorry,
a
go ahead. He did it.
question.
Oh yeah.
You said you changed your god?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was
So
that like backstory or in game?
That was in game.
It was kind of. It was in game purely from, like I said, because it was my second character. It kind of came from just playing with the party. I kind of went effectively very basic of just like fighter, centaur. This god is a centaur wearing armor. That would kind of make sense for that to work. But then I think the way that I ended up playing him, and I don't think I intended him to be such a dad figure. He just kind of, I think that naturally just came from how I was with the party. Because I think my thing was I loved all the other players so much that it was a case of Jason became the way to keep them alive as much as possible, or at least very much was, not in a horrible way, effectively just temp hit points for the team as a whole. Because I think at the time I had quite high AC anyway. Yeah, it was quite high AC, and I also had interception as well, which was relatively new at the time because it had just been introduced. So especially if someone was close to me, like Eslin or Amelia, they were basically able to take less damage. And I think just naturally it came into the concept of Nilia through. I can't remember. I want to say it was something to do with Pilia. Because we kind of talked about Pilia and the wife being a follower of Nilia.
Pilia was a follower of Nilia, and so that was sort of natural flow. And basically, what happened was, so when you started out, you had one piety, like everybody does.
Yes, yeah.
With Theros, because that was going to be your main god. And then
I went into negative.
You went into negative because you, in like one of the first sessions you were in, interfered in an honorable duel, which was to protect Ganassi, but it was still it was a fair fight that both parties agreed to, and he interfered, which was a really cool character moment. But it is the opposite of what the god of victory, Eros, likes. He's not Ares, he's not bloodthirsty, but a fight's a fight, combat's combat, and so that was dropped to -1. He dropped to 0 piety.
Yeah, it dropped to 0, yeah.
Now, there was an opportunity, that was not a foregone conclusion. There was a way to remain with Eros if that was the avenue you wanted to go. I let it lie for a few sessions to see what you did, basically. And when it seemed like you were playing into the idea of doubt, or sort of like, do I want this anymore? I dangled the Nelian thread in front of you, and you took it, and I thought it made for a really interesting early sudden development.
Really
it was a really beautiful moment as well, because from what I remember, it was a case of just like sitting on a cliff, and then I want to say a wolf or something similar.
It was a woman at a campfire.
It was a woman at a campfire, yeah. And then no, but previously wasn't there like a wolf or a creature that
she
passed?
turned into a wolf as she walked away, if I'm not mistaken.
No. So, I think a wolf. No, you petted a wolf, and then the woman was by the campfire. And
yeah, that was it. I remember there was
she
an
literally
animal
turned into
interaction
Nelia as
first.
she vanished.
Yeah, I remember there was an interaction with an animal first that led to then the campfire. And I think also at the time for him, in terms of the victory stuff, I think the loss of Ganassi was something that hit Jason way too hard, especially in the concept of he was effectively hired as a bodyguard for the party. And that one hit him hard, and then I was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's not really about victory anymore. It's that thing of just like when you're too tired of fighting. And he is a dad. He's just massive dad energy. Like, honestly.
Holy shit! I just realized another similarity. Botch also, his first god was Eros. It was all backstory stuff originally, but
Eros is just like a good first god. But everyone's like, nah, I'm kind of done with you now. Yeah, exactly.
Oh god, why do I feel like I remember like a 2006 rom-com about a guy who he, like, every woman he dates, like, after she breaks up with him, meets the man of her dreams, and he's desperate to break the
good luck Chuck.
Good luck, Chuck.
Good luck Chuck. Eros is good luck Chuck.
Yeah.
What a fantastic premise for a film. We'll have to look into that. That's brilliant. Good luck, Chuck.
Right, rollies.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna use my fire die this time.
Alright, here we go.
I rolled another 2.
I also rolled another 2. Oh my god. This is the I've rolled worst in my entire life.
10.
Oh, you should have
6.
You should have seen me yesterday. I had advantage and I rolled
5.
a 1 and a 2.
Scotinos.
8.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Scotty.
So I did the assignment wrong. I didn't really, but I was trying to work out what kind of story I was going to tell, and I ended up decided to go and unpick a completely separate thread, not from Scotinos, not from the Ganassi, but just a tale taken from Meletis sometime in the past. And here we go. The following is an excerpt taken from the diary of Bowman Agiafia, taken from the case files of the circumstances surrounding a series of murders as yet unsolved of a number of hotlights in Meletis. Paraloga, 4th day of Necrologion. We have been ordered into the farming hamlet of Tegion, a several-day trek towards the Lindus Horn, where a band of Eidolons were reported to have been slaughtered, or rather, they slaughtered the populace and livestock. The source for this was shaky at best, a farmhand boy having been thrust upon his father's horse and spurred the direction of the city in the early hours of the night, and the description of the combat in this darkness described as just screams and then silence. Far more likely a well-coordinated bandit attack, but the captain is adamant that the chance of incursion from these undead is just too great. We travel as a patrol of 12, 3 polearms, 2 shield bearers, 1 spell sword, 3 archers, including myself, 1 tracker, a healer, and a priest of Erebos who volunteered their services. Chloris as our commanding officer. The instruction and task is made clear: to remove the Eidolon presence at any cost. I admit my unease to Chloris. Our equipment sets us up well for a conflict and excursion. Weapons, some limited potions from the armory, holy water, but no spare blankets, no spare food, nothing in the way to offer any support to the villagers that might have survived and be in need of our help on arrival. Nothing to rebuild, only to destroy what is left. They will have left none standing, I am told. It is a waste of cargo, and we need to strike fast. I sit in my father's home as I write. We will be gone for some time, so forgo my usual bunk in the barracks for more favourable company. The old man snores in the armchair by the fireplace while I sit writing on the desk facing out the window across the bay. I can never get tired of the view, even at night. I can see small flickers of light across the water, small beads of orange or yellow across silently shifting beams of black. Busy as usual. The shadow of my hand and quill dances on the page like a fluttering bird as the fireplace reaches its end. I miss the quiet. We leave at dawn. Venerius, 6th day of Nickelodeon. Good progress is made towards the Horn. Iduma, the priest of Erebos, has spent much of it discussing the moral implications of restoring fallen to life with our own healer, and has made a point to specifically ask how many diamonds they have on their person for such egregious acts. This is why you don't accept help on a sanctioned operation from well-meaning strangers, because there's always a hidden cost, and in this instance it's politics to contend with. I am reassured having Sophronia with us. Whatever awaits us in Tergion, at least there is one who can commit their power towards aiding survivors. I mention this within earshot, and Chloris reminds everyone that this is a search and destroy operation. Alexius, 9th day of Nickelodeon. Arrival on Tergion. Even before it homed into view, there was a sense of unease in the air. It was hard to pinpoint. One of the horses bolted, and we nearly lost the rest until the spellsword uttered something and calmed them down. Wish that stuff worked on us too. The smell was next to Hitsus. Unmistakable. The mix of decay and earth. I swear I saw Iduma huffing the air like a nargilez. There were 3 bodies immediately discovered. An older man on the road just before the entrance to the village, presumably the father of our information source. A couple, one propped against the door to their home, the other on their back clutching their chest. Gone for several days at this point, so there's little insight the tracking can get beyond a rapid degeneration of flesh and muscle. The silence is almost palpable. The only sounds are the occasional light howl of the wind and the clattering of a shutter against its frame in reply. We take a moment for Iduma to perform rites, but we cannot stay in the open for long. Same day continued. More dead. Full families, solitary men and women, all dead in their own homes. There's a few more out in the street, and a small gathering in the tavern, the something sable. I didn't look properly. Even the ones indoors show some signs of decay more than one would expect. Muscle mass is drained. Eyes, or the ones that remain, wide and glossy. We find no Eidolons, no returned, no survivors. Even Chloris is too shocked to joke at this point. We settle ourselves in what passed for a generic worship place in the village. Small carvings of wood sit on pedestals around the room, with simple kneeling stools in places around a semicircular design. We clear out the furniture and set up a base of operations of a sort. Fatigue postponed through shock and horror of everything we'd come across, it's caught up with us. At this point, we need to rest before we fan out and see if there is any sign of where the attackers went. Same night continued. I'm on 3rd watch. It's been dead silent, which does nothing to ease my already shot nerves. I've perched on the roof for visibility. My eyes could likely see nothing were it not for the spellsword's dark vision. Now they flick back and forth between various corpses still visible, dotted around the hamlet. The pen abruptly stops, and a trail of light ink runs from the last letter diagonally across the page. Selinus, 17th day of Nickelodeon. So, I died. Like, for real. The details are a little shaky, but I've been given some of them from while I've been recovering. The last thing I remember is the feeling of darkness, closing around me, as if my own shadow grew larger and heavier, before I felt a crush on my windpipe and my vision fading. Mind can't help but I think I had a vision of the great river itself. But the next thing I remember was light blinding me as I breathed again, Sophronia kneeling over my body. I must have collapsed from the roof as I awoke on the ground with a broken ankle, a dislocated shoulder, and bruised ego from failing my watch. I was told shade-like creatures descended on the group, and I was not the only to fall from this surprise attack. Iduma is dead. Her spirit was unsurprisingly unwilling to return. Perhaps that was my own blessing, lest she tried to prevent my own resurrection. I am told the creatures are defeated. I do not know how, but given Chloris' skills at command with combat and the skills from within our party, I do not doubt this in any way. They were described to me as beings of darkness, shadows that grew from the dark corners in the room and descended on the party. I am saddened that I proved nothing but a burden to the patrol, and following our return to Melitys, I have requested leave to try and relocate my focus. I sit, again, at my father's desk, once more as I write. The view is the same, but it feels distant. The lights on the fishing vessels do not allure me as they once did. I do not see the flicker of my hand as I write, as I once did. I shall have to return to duty soon. My strength has returned, mostly. The debt of my restoration is one I do not wish to have hung over me. But perhaps one more night. Paraloga, 18th day of Necrologian. My father passed away last night. I woke to the sound of heavy gasping, but by the time I made it to his room, he has already passed. I am told it is likely of a heart attack brought on by old age, but I do not believe it. I saw in his vacant eyes the same glossy look I saw in Tergion. Those creatures are in Melitys. I report this to Ducatia. Chloris is the one who responds and suggests I take more time to rest. Asshole! If no one else will find this beast, this thing that murdered my own man, then I will. Colonel, 19th day of Necrologian. I don't know what to say, so I will keep this brief. I have been arrested for the murder of Chloris. I did not do it. I did go and storm into the tavern where he drank with the other men. I may have had one too many at the time, but I remember standing in the light of the doorway. It must have been bright as fuck in there, as the oil lamp on the street behind me did not cast my shadow into the tavern. I screamed at him to pay attention to what was coming for me, or for all of us, and he had me thrown out as a drunk. Asshole! I did follow him that night and argued the shit with him again as he stumbled into his home, but when my pleas fell on drunk ears, I retired to my father's, I guess now, my own home. Fuck staying in the barracks. The next thing I know is they've broken the door down and arrested me for his murder. I knew the moment they said it, what was responsible. Strangled to death, supposedly. Surely they must know. I sit in the nicer cells with my diary. They afford me that luxury at least, as I await my fate. I see the flicker of the light from outside my cell as the jailer sits and hashes out some philosophical debate with another prisoner. I can't see him, but I see his shadow as it gets more and more expressive with his argument. It's just a shadow, yet it terrifies me. Memories of that village fill up my mind as I feel sleep coming for me. I'd do anything for them to stop. Lint, 21st day of Necrologian. I have been released from my incarceration. Sophronia was murdered last night. Same symptoms. Drained of life. Muscle mass somewhat weakened too, though they were never particularly brawny. I can't help but feel unworthy. My time came, and Sophronia brought me back beyond my time. Now theirs has come, and I'm all but certain I am responsible. I have packed my bags and set my affairs in order. I head out north to the wilds alone to lure this creature out. It wants me. I know it wants me. I sit one final night at my father's desk as the final log slowly dies, its light again casting shadows through the room. The couch where the old man sat exuding a door-shaped wobbly mass. The desk, a crisscross of the underlying frame and a rectangular block, blasted against the wall. My quill, like a raven feather dancing across the desk and parchment as I write. But one shadow is missing. My own. On Inixius, 23rd day of Necrologion, the body of Bowman Agathia was discovered 2 miles north of Melitus. The cause of death? Apparent strangulation. No further cases of this nature have been reported since this date. End report.
Yay, storytelling.
That's cool.
Happy stories.
Man, I think we all went. I'm gonna feel especially guilty for my one.
D&D is therapy. It's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Can anyone guess what it was?
I know, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, 'cause I told you.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I can't say it because it'd be cheating, but I know.
Is it the thing that killed Ganassi?
No. No, that's been dealt with. That's it. That you.
Is
by
it
your own-
something-
Oh yeah, you don't know, Joy. Sorry, Alex. Do you?
Yeah. No, I don't.
They
As
meant
far
the
as
thing
I-
that
as far
killed
as I'm aware,
Ganassi.
yeah. What
Is
the
it
hell
something
was
we
it?
all would know, though?
What the thing? It's a standard Monsters Handbook creature.
Okay.
No, I would not know.
That's fine.
Me neither.
Does anyone want to tell Alex what it was that killed Ganassi?
Oh, the kill Ganassi. Yeah, so that's a separate. Yeah, so. Yeah. Don't remember.
Wow.
What killed
Oh, it
Ganassi?
was-
It
Was
was.
that the-
Iridian, right?
Yeah, a creature of my own invention, a shape-shifting fiend called a Horidian.
That Amalia slashy slashed.
Good.
It was real mean.
It was real mean.
Mhm.
It was basically like
Yeah,
a
she kept
Bogart,
turning-
but like an asshole and also really deadly.
Yeah, because it kept turning into Ganassi during the fight, saying it was my fault that I killed him.
Not wrong.
It also turned into
I mean-
Helena's father.
Morse.
999, I just witnessed a fucking murder.
Blink, blink, blink. Oh.
Rudeness. Rudeness.
Hey, it's okay, Alex. At least you didn't shatter her favorite axe in front of her.
Yeah, I was very. When you told me about that, I was like, well, I mean, you know, congratulations on your relationship-ending decision.
Oh, okay, that's quite funny because Ali said the same thing in game while we were playing.
You said the same thing in game. You were like, out of life, I'm breaking up with you right now.
That word for word, yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you broke my axe. That's why when you give other players weapons, I'm like, are they weapons that are going to stay, or are you going to break those too?
Don't get too attached.
I quite literally replaced your weapon in the same session.
I lost the cape of the manta ray, and I love that thing. That was just swimming, everyday swimming. Would have been perfect on anyone else, and I was like, "Yep, I'll have that." Swim
Yeah.
speed of 60. Let's go. Whee!
I have a question for you, Morse, actually.
Go for it.
I feel like there's been multiple instances where you've made a significant deviation from previous plans as far as Skotinos' build was concerned.
Yes. Very much so.
Could you talk about that a little bit more? Like, what were some original ideas you had? I guess a big one was when Calliope left the group, you began to take levels in Bard, and that was sort of like a specific
So,
conscientious choice?
Well, it came from originally I didn't understand multi-classing. I still don't, to be honest, but I felt like I'd give it a go and see what it's all about. But now I've discovered that I won't get Wish until level 20 now because of it, and what even is life? So I was originally thinking I was going to stick both the sorcerer build, and at that point the mechanics for that class were kind of set up anyway, because it's a homebrew build that we have. It's all blood related anyway. But I guess as time went on, every so often after we like defeated one of these like monsters or creatures, it just initially as of sort of maybe like a drunken stupid, he just started like I started pulling into the idea, despite his appearance and everything else, he has a bit of a satyr revelry in him. So I started singing songs of the things that we defeated, and I guess it just kind of made a bit more sense as I did it. And a notable one was singing the song for basically the burial or the execution or the destruction of the corpse of Amalia's father. That was a big like turning point of going, well, this is how the music can make an impact and why it can be useful. Because up to that point, I'd been singing songs just to take the piss out of them, like
the Ice Queen and the Shark Queen.
Yeah, the Shark Queen, fishy fish. I mean, I still love that. That's a sea shanty that needs to become a thing, in my opinion.
I'm just going to point out that over half of your songs you've written are about demeaning women.
Shit.
I thought I was really subtle with my wording.
That's bad. Okay, we need to work on that.
To be fair, it's my fault. I just have a thing for badass boss bitch villains.
I did.
I mean, Astraphis, the Ice Queen, the Shark Queen.
Yeah, it's been because they're villains. Yeah. I mean, I think I was halfway through writing a song about Daxos having a tiny dick, but it never came to fruition. But that's about as far as I got with it. But yeah, so I think as a result of that, I was like, I just quite like the idea of kind of pulling that in. And there was a moment when I went to the temple and kind of like made the offering, tried to decide how I was going to utilize that spell, like how I was going to play that bard, if that makes sense, like play the bard cast, and whether or not it was going to be through revelry or it was going to be through faith in effect. And the decision was pretty much made when Bithynia fell off Plummet and I cast Featherfall. And I think that's when I kind of made I was leaning towards it at that point, but as that happened, I was kind of like, well, this is how it's going to play, and it just kind of meant that it was just kind of like a blood infusion, if you will, thrown into some of the bardic songs. And yeah, it's been great.
And I think that
missing a lot of the stuff you get at this level as a sorcerer. But...
And I don't think that makes your blood magic cooler though, because I like the idea of blood magic in general, but I do think that there has to be a greater element of the magic part of it, like, usually like drawing out the blood and then using it as a fuel to throw a fireball, or like sort of like transmutation or transfiguration, stuff like that. When it's just more limited water bending, I feel like that's it's a little limited in that respect.
Totally makes sense. I mean,
I think it adds a lot of flavor.
One of the things that's built into this specific sorcerer class as well is the ability to expend my hit dice to convert into spell slots, which I've done, I think, twice, and it can kill me in the process of doing it. So I could basically kill myself in sort of like a rage of blood magic, but that hasn't happened yet. So touch wood. But it's been fun. Yes, it's definitely a different personality to the Ganassi, that's for sure.
It's been a bit of a branching path on my end of things as well, especially for those who don't know, the Isle of Hithonia was originally going to have the Helix of Farika, which was going to be a magic bowl / cup that, like, from forth potions and poisons would pour out, and that was going to be Scotty's piece of divinity. And then you told me, wasn't you had that film shooting stuff, and that you were going to need to take a small sabbatical, and I was like, oh shit, well, I can't very well have him not be here, like, but either like as the player or you know, as a player as the. No, it's not. I think it's better for it. And so like, basically plans had to change, and so I basically plucked the Blades of Clothis from their original location because I thought it still worked, and I sort of like repurposed that idea slightly in terms of, because it was always going to be a case of like they belong to like the one and only champion of Clothis. I just basically altered what horrible fate befell him, and so I stuck that in all of that. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know exactly when Moss is going to come back. I don't know like when that's gonna. I don't want to sort of like feel like I actually have to shoehorn something in. I want it to still feel organic. So I was, and yeah, I'll freely admit this. I definitely borrowed this a little bit from Critical Role. The Campaign 1 Myth Carver, how that's sort of just kind of like given to them slightly. It's given to them by Scanlan, by the quest giver, that Sphinx. And so I was like, okay, I think I can do that. But why would Elspeth have the Calyx of Farika? I was like, she wouldn't, but she would have the Glaive of Xenagos. And there's been more than a few parables between Skotinos and Xenagos. And I was like, okay. And then I sort of like, as I was workshopping that, it definitely hit me that there'd be an opportunity for a really cool parable of almost a bit like in the second Harry Potter film, when they draw these like parables between Harry and Voldemort. It's like, it's not our similarities that make us what we are, it is our choices. Sort of like echoing that idea of like, you know, it's not the path you walk, it's how you walk it, or like it's the choices you make along that path. And so I was like, I thought that was really cool, and I think I'm actually glad the chips fell that way, because I think it's a way more interesting dynamic and interesting story to sort of have that dichotomy, or that inner battle of, you know, wielding the weapon of Xenagos, the satyr who presumed he would be a god, but sort of like still staying true to yourself and being like, no, I'm gonna do things differently. And I just think that's way cooler than just a bowl that has like infinite potions and poisons.
It sounds so cool though. Hey, let's deviate and find that bowl as well, guys. Let's double up these aspects of divinity. I nearly said vestiges, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I am not blind to the overlap, but hey, there's only so many ways you can
do something.
Slice an apple. Is that the expression? I feel like there's only so many ways to skin a cat. There's only so many ways you can skin a cat. I feel like slice an apple is like.
I was going to say slice an apple is a little bit nicer to listen to. Yeah. That's one.
For release.
Sounded Peter. All right, shall we roll?
Yeah.
We shall.
I rolled a 19.
Oh, 18 only. And I thought.
11.
Oh.
Vila, do you want me to go?
I don't know. Wait, what did Ali roll?
13.
Oh. No.
It's
do
between
wanna
me and
go
you.
First?
I do not mind going first if you want like a little extra time to
Was it
gather
19 and 18?
19 and 18.
No, I'll go first.
Are you sure?
I'm stressed, so I need to do it, and then I can like relax again.
Okay.
I get it.
Look.
Go ahead.
I'm just a Dutch girl here. I tried very hard.
I'm just a Dutch girl from a Dutch family.
Eating waffles and eating my clogs. Dum, 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 dum.
There we go, Scotty. There's your next ballad.
No. I have avoided stealing. No, well, I've mostly avoided stealing music so far.
God, just while we're on the subject real quick, I'm very tempted to turn be like you saying, okay, we're bringing the Dutch into an emote.
did. I didn't. It wasn't me.
No, that's true. All right, take it away.
Okay. Oh, this is stressful. I was never good at reading out loud. This
You
is
got this.
fine. I'm fine. Okay. We travel back in time for this story. Before the island of Astraphis. Before the fight with the Eater of Hope. Before Tempest. We pan over a city years ago. A city that is known for its might. A city where warriors are born and bred. With egos to match. As we pan over the city of Akros, we hear music from a celebration still going. Somewhere further away, we see a single light. In one of the houses, there's a single candle lit on a balcony. A small, lone figure sits on the floor in an evening gown. A young Hilera sits, knees tucked in, utterly alone. Hilera was excited to go to the celebration. The servants had told her her sister would be in attendance. It had been weeks she had seen her sister, and Hilera was excited to talk to her again. For the night, she chose one of her favorite dresses, an ocean blue gown with gold trimming. Family walked into the celebration together, a united family. But after greeting the lord and lady of the house, Hilera's brothers left to talk war, and her parents wandered off too. Hilera turned to look for her sister, and eventually she found her talking to the other ladies. Hilera approached the group, but when she arrived, no one made an attempt to address her. Some did give her a look of disgust, but no further attempt was made to converse with her. The ladies doted on her sister and told her how beautiful her dress was and how handsome her husband. After what felt like an hour, Hilera decided that she would be unable to speak to her sister tonight. She was about to take up a spot. Sorry, my Siri went off. Take up a spot at the dessert table when someone tapped on her shoulder. A common boy asked for a dance, and she agreed. The boy was kind enough until the song ended, and as they were about to separate, he grabbed her hand to keep her in place. He kissed her hand and spoke words that would stay with her for years. You are undeserving of your title. Hilera kept her composure and straightened her back. At least I have one, she told the boy, and after they separated, she ran. She ran from the pressure that kept building in her chest, the look she was getting from the people around town as her vision blurred, from the tears she was unable to keep at bay any longer. Hilera doesn't remember falling asleep. She only remembers the overwhelming feeling of loneliness. An unfamiliar voice interrupted her thoughts. Now, dear, tonight is a happy night. Why so sad? The stranger asked. It was the first time today someone had taken the time to actually ask her a genuine question, to care. The young lady couldn't help but tell the stranger all about their day, about the boy that told her she was undeserving, and how the ladies had praised her sister's dress, while she was told blue was not her color. How she had been practicing dancing for weeks, and she only danced once. The man jumped from the railing with a smile and extended his hand. Well, dear, if you wish to dance, then we shall dance. After what felt like hours, the two were now sitting on the floor together. The man just finished telling a story about a golden city and the clans that call it their home. The man stood up and put a hand on Hilera's head. I am sad to announce that my duties call. It was a pleasure, Hilera. Will you be back, Ronos? Of course, my dear. I have many stories to tell. Ronos tipped his hat, and with incredible speed, the god took off. Hilera watched as her new friend left, watched as he raced through the city, through the streets of Akros. In that moment, she knew that one day she would leave this place behind and explore the world Ronos spoke of. She would be free from the title that kept her in her father's shadow. She would just be Hilera. Finally, her own person.
Hey. Screw that guy.
I have a question. So, fairly early on, when I came across the homebrew build for
That story
the...
was so good at the Romeo, I was like, goodbye.
Am I not... So, no, I just had to refresh the thing, because like,
Or is it just me? I can't see Romeo anymore.
He's still there.
I had to refresh my page for a
I just
second.
can't see him.
If you refresh...
Nope.
Refresh.
Let me
Tell her to refresh.
Jeez.
She's doing it. It's a smart cookie.
He has moved position if that's what. Maybe she can't like see him because of her screen or something.
Well, so sometimes when someone turns their camera off and turns back on again, like, it'll show up on like the stream, but I can't see it.
Yeah.
So that happened with Tamara, so I refreshed everything and I could see her again, but I might have had something. But hey, Viola, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying I have a question.
Okay.
So fairly early on, I had come across the travel domain build, the homebrew for that, and I thought it was definitely the right move to differentiate yourself, to make her own character, as opposed to necessarily just oh no, this feels unkind, but it more like there was definitely parables with Jester from Mighty Nine. I think the travel domain went a long way in making her your own in many ways, and I think you've really rolled with that. I think that's really cool. If she'd stayed a trickery cleric, how do you think she'd be now? Do you think she'd be any different? Do you think
Oh god. Well, Healer is like a little bit tricksy. Like she's chaotic, but she's not necessarily very tricksy.
Exactly, and there's the thing why I think the travel domain was perfect for that, because something like being able to teleport someone, you can apply that in many tricksy ways, but it's not what it's inherently designed for. Versus the trickery domain specifically is a lot more tricksy by nature. Do you think she might have been far more tricksy, far more chaotic? God heaven help me.
No, I think she would be the same level of chaotic. I just think she'd, draw more. What did she do again? Wait. Oh, the poster for pulling pants down.
Oh yeah.
I think she would maybe have done that more often. It was a lord. He was mean. Okay.
He was mean. He was a dick.
I just like that's the result that came from it.
Now, travel domain is a pretty cool like cleric domain
It's
build
really
as well.
cool.
It's got some cool stuff in it. Like the channel divinity, I think it's basically just vortex warp, but like without the drawbacks of vortex warp.
Dope.
I am always fascinated by Hilira because it's something I think I do as well in terms of as a player, I definitely use the characters whenever I get to play as a vehicle to work through my own shit.
Mhm.
And it's fairly unsubtle when I do it. And you are subtler than I am, to be sure. But in sort of like it takes one to know one kind of way, I do recognize when someone has invested personal experiences to quite the degree into their character. And it is genuine. Like one of the more fulfilling things as a DM is to get to DM those kinds of characters, because you're, at least I like to think, helping someone externalize stuff so they can face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. That's 100% true.
All right. Unless anybody has any other questions, should we roll?
Let's do it.
I just want to say you did a really good Ronos impression.
Oh no! Actually, thank you for reminding me, Tamara.
It's really good.
Like as the voice of Ronos, I was thoroughly impressed.
Thank you.
Smashing impression, my dear.
Thank you.
It was like listening into a mirror. Wait, that's not quite right, is it? Fuck it, I'm rolling with it. All right, speaking of rolling with it. Eight.
2.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Two.
Every DM ever.
Another
Oh yeah,
thing.
no, like it's definitely like I'm the problem when it comes to DMing. Like a lot is like a. What was that line Brennan Lee Mulligan said in the EXU Calamity? It's like, I'm bad. I'm a bad man. I came here to hurt people. It's like, yep. All right. I want to first and foremost say that I had a completely different story planned. And yesterday, for a variety of reasons, I decided to completely change it and to tell a completely different story. Because I thought this one might be one that you guys haven't actually already heard, at least a little bit. And I want to dedicate this to someone who I just think was an awesome player to play for, to DM for. It was a pleasure to have at my table and wrote a really fantastic character. So, without further ado. Second. Our tale begins at the great port of Meletis. As the waves lapped against the dock, a strong and elegant hand rose from the water, followed by a woman with long wavy hair of a deep oceanic blue color, the tips seeming to pale into a white reminiscent of sea foam that shifted in the wind like the lapping waves themselves. The city was new to her, which meant all sorts of interesting possibilities and opportunities. This woman, named Defili, had grown accustomed to wandering from place to place in Theros, doing and taking what she wanted, from those either too wide-eyed to resist her beauty, or too pliable to resist her charm and manipulation. This city would be her oyster like the others, or so she thought. It was the innocuous comment of a bathhouse worker, midway through chit-chatting as she washed Defili's hair, that would set her on an entirely new path. The chosen of Purphoros, the one who was like you. You've never heard of him? Defili shot up. Conversation quickly turned to almost interrogation, but she had to know more. Another half-nymph? Could it be? Within the hour, Defili was striding through the city once more, this time with a very clear destination. The Crucible. That was the name of the magic emporium the Daxos, as he was called, operated out of. It didn't take long to find. A great plume of smoke made for an excellent marker. Inside, she moved past the array of arms and armor, following the singing sound of a hammer striking metal. She blithely hopped over the counter and wandered into the next room. There he was, and there was no mistaking it. He had a handsome face and, like Defili, his hair and eyes both glowed a matching hue, only his were the color of molten iron. He looked up, and all the concentration in his face gave way to astonishment. The Crucible closed unexpectedly early that day, the rest of which the two half-nymphs spent talking about everything, their origins, their upbringings, their lives. Both were just happy to finally converse with another who could understand their plight, who could see them for who they were, not what. They found much to relate to in one another, and much as when fire meets water in ordinary life, things eventually grew steamy. Thus, a whirlwind romance was kicked off. Defili stayed with Daxos in his home. She was no housecat, to be sure. She still certainly had her own plans and ambitions within Meletis, and he still had a job to do. But more and more the focus on his craft wasn't quite there, as the distraction of a certain blue-haired beauty grew more and more tempting. For her part, Defili's already formidable ambition grew tenfold in the light of this new union. She knew how powerful he was, and she certainly saw how powerful... she knew how powerful she was, and she certainly saw how powerful he was. Together they could do whatever they wanted. Have whatever they wanted. Why will he settle for toiling away in a shop? She began to whisper encouragements to him, pose questions, suggestions. It started small. Needed shark teeth for an enchantment component? Why not just hunt it yourself? A wraith essence? Well, let me tell you about this lost tomb I learned the location of them. I just happened to contain all sorts of additional treasures. Bolder and bolder their adventures became, at her direction, hunting monsters and plundering forgotten secrets. Defili seemed to have it all, an infatuated Adonis to warm her bed, who doubled as a fiery battering ram to clear her rapacious path. But, like so many other tales, hubris would pave the way to tragedy. It was their biggest score yet. She had learned of the rumored location of the buried ruin of King Eros's floating castle. The rumors had proven true, and as they were clearing the dungeon of its traps and denizens, an avid Defili rushed ahead of Daxos and the others. She entered the throne room, alone, but did not merely discover a hoard of goodies as she had hoped. The dreaded king had not let death stop him from guarding over his treasures. Now, a black-hearted death knight, he rose from his throne and grasped his spear. Defili tried to engage him, but alone she was hopelessly outmatched. It was over in mere moments. The last thing she saw were his sickly glowing green eyes as he drove his spear through her heart. Then death took her, and she felt herself slip into the darkness. Then, like a bad dream, she awoke. She slowly opened her eyes, and they were met with a pair of fiery red ones. Daxos stood over her, a look of fear and anguish etched into his face that quickly melted away into a weak smile. She raised her head, just in time to see the large diamond he was holding turn to dust in his hand and blow away. She looked around. King Eros lay not far away from them, now a mere heap of smoldering embers, their other companions nowhere to be found. She then realized that Daxos was covered in wounds, many of them very deep and all of them bleeding freely. The reality dawned on her. It wasn't a dream. She had died, and he had almost died to bring her back. He asked her if she wanted to see what treasures the room held, and that made her let out a teary gasp. She realized she'd done the very thing they both hated of the rest of the world, and only seen what he could do for her. She had taken what they shared and turned it into a tool to exploit for her own ends. But no longer. She took him away from that wretched place, to an Asclepia, where they could receive healing. Once recovered from the worst of their injuries, Defili came to Daxos, and told him she was leaving. She told him she saw him now, truly, for the sweet man with a heart full of goodness and love, who had opened that heart to her. She told him she was who she was, but she refused to let her nature and the path she walked bring him any more pain and suffering. And so, water and fire parted, and all that was left was two wounded hearts.
I still don't trust her, but...
Wow.
So
Which is fair. She's a complicated individual.
they've now broken up even after the sweet, sweet message that Daxos sent her.
No, this was all
song?
before.
Okay.
Ooh.
This is their history. This is
This is before that.
Good.
Messy.
Love is real.
basically, yeah, no, that was part of the point. So basically, when Rhiannon or when we were building her character, she latched onto half nymphs because she thought it was really cool and it sort of helped her warlock build. Was that it was just like it made sense, and she loved the idea of naiad, and I was like, because it fitted. Because she wanted to. She, like when I built the character with Rhi, she started from I want to do a warlock of the is it the lurker in the deep? Is that what it's called?
Fathomless.
The fathomless. The
Oh, yes.
yeah, I want to build a warlock of the fathomless, and I was like, cool. You're like, here are these options, like Triton. It was like all the half nymph, and so naiad half nymph stuck out. And so just basically from that, I was just like laying out to her, okay, this is what this means. You know, a lot of people just see you for what you can do for them. Like you know, you're special. Like in the same way as like an Asuma kind of is like, you're like a magnet for necessarily not always the best kind of attention. And I was like, okay, well, there's also like, you guys are very rare. So, you would like, if there were any like just established ones, you would absolutely know about them. Cause like, they are just, it doesn't happen often enough that, it's, you know, you don't know the names of the established ones. So it's like, okay, cool. So you know that you would have heard of the existence of this person. She was like, oh yeah, no, I would have sought him out. And so we RP'd their encounter just to sort of build her character a little bit and and she was the one who was like, she said verbatim, yeah, I think they would have burned. And so, and so from that, we basically workshopped what that looked like, you know, as like, okay, this is what Daxos is like. And she's like, okay, well, this is what Defili's like. And we had the rough outline up to and including the whole, you know, she died and he brought her back. And she decided that, no, he's a good guy. I'm not going to do this to him. And so that was the outline that we had for ages. And I never sort of, then that was just all the pre-established history way before she even, you know, joined in that first session. And so I just basically, just for the story, I decided, you know what, I just flesh it out because it's an interesting kind of tragedy, I think, at least like initially. And I think Defili's a really cool character in the sort of archetype of, you know, like, can you grow? Like, can you, you know, people who think that, oh, I'm always going to be alone or I'm always going to be like, you know, I can't change who I am. It's like, no, not necessarily asking you to change who you are, but is there room in there for something else? And I just, you know, of my own accord, been developing that idea. You know, the archetypical tsundere, if anybody is an anime prolific. And so that was the impetus behind that. And I'm just a fan of the character she built, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, nice.
By the way, as the DM, I will say you don't have to necessarily ask questions specifically about the story I told. You know, I'm an open book right now.
Okay, but what's Philly doing now?
Sorry.
Like, is she still in Melodies waiting for Daxos to return? Like, what is she up to?
It's interesting because it's like battling like her nature or her like base desires versus like this new thing she feels. So it's a case of like okay, there was a meme I read about the difference between cats and dogs. Like, a dog will straight up come up to you and tell you they're happy to see you. A cat will act like it's a total coincidence that they're in the same room as you. So, like, she's definitely a cat in that scenario. She's like, oh, I guess I'm still in the city. You know, there's a war on the horizon, and I thought I better study up and like, have I been like, you know, checking in on the Crucible? I guess, you know, I need a magic item, and I don't know when he's gonna be back. It's a total coincidence kind of thing. So she's prettying it up, but she's definitely still staying in Melodies because she's tired of running from what she feels. Even if she's not necessarily ready to admit that to the world. I would say as well, she's an intelligent creature. She's not stupid. She does understand that the threat of Timaret is something that concerns everybody. And if she's in a position to do something about it, then she'd be stupid not to. Kind of like, what's that line from Guardians of the Galaxy? It's like, what do we care about the assholes in this galaxy? Like, because I'm one of the assholes who lives in it. Kind of thing. Did you have a question, Virla?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you can answer it, but I'm just gonna ask it
I'll do my best.
Okay, well, I'm honestly not sure if you can answer this, but it's been on my mind since it happened. What the fuck is up with that crown in Winter's Heart? It's been bugging me.
You don't know.
I know, and it's so frustrating.
I can't.
Yeah,
I can't even. I'm sorry. I can't even say anything. It would just be like, I can't even compare it to I can't even compare it to like the kind of reveal it would be, Like even like a completely different thing, because like it would set your mind out of wonder at like how, like if I say, oh, it's this kind of a big of a deal, it's like as big as this thing from other franchises, you'd be like, oh my god, what does that mean? Like I can't. Like
Yeah, there was a possibility.
I will say this. I will say
Definitely
this.
red herring.
I will say this. The crown is an existing bit of lore in the Theros source book. It doesn't like it's one of those like leaves it up to the player. I can read you like I'll tell you what, I will throw you guys a bone. D&D and let me just or actually, you know, I don't get to use this enough. Wait, where the hell's the book? Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Oh, Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Bear with. Realm of Gods and Mortals. The Iranian Mountains, 104. Winter's Heart. Among the northern Oraniads stands a blizzard-gripped mountain that resembles a volcano. What breathes forth from the crater isn't fire, though. The caldera's interior is coated with ice so cold it freezes anything it touches. Even the fumes that issue forth cause instant frostbite. At the volcano's heart stands a glass statue of a haunting, androgynous figure offering a diamond crown. None who have attempted to claim the strange gift have survived. Even the gods prove reticent to speak of the place, denying its existence or speaking of it with shame. So that's all the source book says. And so I took that and ran with it. I think it's by design. It's like a, you know, like stick something nasty here. And so I did. And I can't say what it is. But I will say this. This is something your characters don't necessarily know, but I can give it away without being, without spoiling or anything. The mountain of Winter's Heart itself, in my version of things, is the corpse of Criotelos, the Titan of Winter's Bite. So yeah, that's as close to the line as I will flirt, because I do want to give you something, but I can't give any more.
When we went after that heart, did we go in like through the butt or did we go in through the mouth?
You never got anywhere near the
No.
mountain.
Okay, that's fine.
Because Baragon was going to Winter's Heart to get the crown, question mark.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
And then we stopped him before, and then we were all like, let's not go there, let's go back.
Let's say I'll say this.
That is true, yes.
The mountain freezes anything that it touches.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the power of an ice titan or an ice titan aspect, it might be the rubber gloves you'd need to pick the radioactive waste up, so to speak.
Nice. Good question, though.
Very good question.
Time for rollies now.
Unless anybody has any others.
Just one more. What is like one NPC that you wish would have gotten like more attention or screen time?
Okay, I do feel a little conflicted saying it because she did get a few cool moments, and I'm not blind to that. But Molpadilla is a character I'm quite proud of, as I'd like to think of myself as a fairly progressive individual, and so her character as, you know, like a young woman in a good position of power who is also a gay woman, I just, you know, because I literally designed her by rolling dice. I was like, I rolled dice on her gender, I rolled dice on her sexual orientation, so it, like, that was completely organic. Like, the only thing I started from was, this is the Master of War. And so I'm always conscious of It was something you said once, one time, sorry, Virla, when I sort of had to come up with the erotica on the fly. It was like, this was definitely written by a man. And it was like, that was like a totally funny moment, but I am conscious of being like blatantly writing perspectives that are not my own and just like the lack of that perspective coming across. So I do feel, I guess, a little like I managed to avoid any of that entirely with Molpadilla. And I think she's a cool, badass character who's just cool and badass of her own merits. And she just also happens to be, let's say a demographic that's not necessarily a one-to-one in terms of me and writing what I know. So campaign's not over yet. So, and you guys still have a city to save. So there may be, stuff on the horizon for her yet, but she is, I guess, for the most part, you guys, I've not shied away from the characters I'm favorable towards. I mean, case in point, one fiery-haired boy. But she was one I've definitely not necessarily hyped up as much, but I'm genuinely proud of that I wrote. So, yeah, that would be my answer to that question. I definitely would love to and plan to do more cool stuff with Molpadilla going forward.
Nice.
All right. Unless there are other questions. Oh,
I mean, it's me.
It's just real quick. Alex, do you want to know what your piece of divinity was gonna be?
I mean, it depends if Jason comes back or not.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, honestly, it's down to you. Like, if you want it to be a case of,
I'll tell you what.
all right,
So your
go.
Iroa's piece of divinity was going to be something called. Basically, it was going to be a suit of armor, and I hadn't chosen the name yet, but the suffix was Mantle of the War God. Nice. And it was going to be like a suit of armor, but I was definitely workshopping a few different things when the Nelia switch happened, and we can chat about that if Jason's gonna come back for a little guest spot and see what's what.
I mean, I've literally just opened the character sheet and I was just like, man, I miss this boy.
Well, yeah, we can have a chat about what level 13 Jason looks like. Maybe a few levels in Ranger wouldn't be amiss. That could be interesting.
To be honest, to be totally honest, I think at this point it's just like I'm just gonna restart the whole thing as Ranger probably. Yeah. But yeah, we can definitely have a chat.
My one sadness is that the bandolier Dax was made for you never got to be used by you.
I know. It's just Dax's and Jason's relationship was always going to be the complicated one.
Listen, I shot the lightning bolt at something else. You're the one who jumped in front of it.
Technically, I didn't jump. Technically, I was behind. It just carried through.
That's how electricity works.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Last but certainly not least, I
don't want to go last.
The heart and soul of this group, in many ways.
Come
what
on.
about Amalia?
Listen. Yeah, what about Amalia? And what about you, the person that holds it literally together?
Thank you.
Listen, I say that unabashedly. You're all the heart and soul of your group in your own way. Ali, you are the innocence of the group in many ways.
No, he's not.
I beg your absolute pudding.
No, okay, let me rephrase.
Funniest thing you've ever said.
No, I will double down on that. You are the Botcher's the unabashed optimism of the group.
Oh, not after this story.
Yeah, well, we all relapse into our little emo phase for this evening. I'm not blind to that, but what I like, just the energy you and Botch bring to every session is something that I'm just really grateful for.
Well, you should be. Like, while you two play, you're like boyfriend and boyfriend.
You're just jealous.
Yeah. Oh, Zoe, to be fair. So, Amalia, do you want to roll for it?
Yeah, we can roll.
All right. 11.
2.
Okay, so I
will not be lost.
Alrighty, good stuff. Okay, are we ready, champs? Let's
get ready to rumble.
So, alrighty. As Botch pressed the loose flesh of his flayed chest to himself, and grimacing as the scorpion tail needle and rough wool thread pierced his flank to sew his chest back together, a cooling breeze rolled across the plains surrounding Scophos and through his thick, matted beard. I could really do with some booze, women, and actually I could really use a dump, thought Botch, fighting through the exquisite pain of his improvised surgery as he knelt on the side of the mountain. The most recent and tenacious target of Botch's rage had fled again, limping after Botch had buried his axe deep into its flank. This was the latest outcome during the last 3 days worth of contest of wills, cunning, brute strength, and unrestrained violence. Snapping the wool off of the long cord once the last stitch was complete, sending a fresh lance of pain through his chest, he stood, stretched, the congealed blood on his skin cracking into arcane lines of past misery. Once I'm done here, I will find a good place with a view, squat, and savor my victory with a satisfactory shit. Bending over and taking up his bone axe once more, he began the endless trudge up to the peak, with Scophos to his rear, scaling the mountain that promised glory and blood. The cave entrance came into view like a coy lover in a tavern, finally stopping to let you approach. The late afternoon sun behind the ridge of the mountain ahead of the peak casting an unnatural shadow over the entrance, concealing the contents of the lair from Botch's greedy and furious gaze. The only sound, aside from the endless wind from the plains to Botch's back, was a low guttural moan from a creature of nightmares, which Botch wanted to destroy. Taking another step forward, the loose stones around his boots shifting slightly, the moan stopped before a faint whine and shuffling noise began to approach the mouth of the cave from within, sending shivers of anticipation up Botch's spine. 6 eyes. 6 beastly eyes. 6 desperate eyes contoured in mortal pain came into view, for the first time near ground level, the creature having no more strength to fight, let alone lift its 3 heads. But nevertheless, coming out once more to fight its nemesis. Botch gazed at the chimera before him, contempt radiating from his heart. How can such a powerful beast be laid bare before one such as me? Why doesn't it run for the horizon to fight me another day? Why must it continue to fight an unwinnable fight? As the chimera summoned its last vestige of energy to pounce, Botch casually stepped back, the dragon head crashing into the dirt at Botch's feet, a prime target for Botch's savage fury. As the dragon head was split in two under the steely glint of his axe, the lion head lunged forward, swallowing Botch's left arm whole in its jaws. Releasing the axe with his right hand, he punched forward, breaking the lion's mighty teeth under his fist. With the adrenaline pumping through his mighty arms, he pushed forward, inch by suffocating inch. Botch reached into the heart of the chimera through the lion's maw, grasping its esophagus and choking the lion head from within. Botch didn't even notice the ever-decreasing strength of the claw strikes from the beast and the butts from the final goat head, which did nothing to sway Botch from his desire to dominate the chimera into a pale form of quivering submissal from its once mighty visage. With one final shudder, Botch felt the full weight of the beast upon him, forcing him to release the chimera, and victorious, Botch slid out of the lion's throat like a newborn warrior emerging from Morgis's womb. Botch's breath came in waves of pleasure, filling his lungs with the stench of death and the joy of the hunt, and a great pleasure of slaughter. The silence of the mountain's wind soothed Botch's heart, and for a long while, Botch stood in front of the mutilated monster. As Botch took out his trusted knife to begin the sordid task of stripping the chimera of its hide, Botch heard a high-pitched growl from the cave. 6 more eyes. 6 smaller eyes. 6 innocent eyes were peering out of the cave. Botch locked gaze with the chimera cub, which began to howl, growl, and bleat in a call for its now departed mother. As Botch took his first step forward to finish the chimera's lineage for good, time stopped. So full of bloodlust. But do you know where your true strength comes from, Bocchios of the Stalking Bear? Botch looked up and further up, as in his mind's eye, threads appeared from all around him, wrapping his limbs and forcing him skywards, up a body that appeared skyscrapers tall, to eyes that looked like stars in themselves. Come now, Botch. Calm down and talk to Clothis. Surely you are better than this.
Ooh, damn!
That was so good.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
This is why the long drop is like a spiritual place.
Well, I wanted to sort of give an idea of where there's one thing that I've had in my inventory that's basically come in clutch every fight, and that's the chimeric hide. And I sort of wanted to give a little bit of flesh to the story of how I actually how Botch got a hold of that artifact.
I mocked up Botch's family crest. It's in the general chat on Discord.
Flawless.
Makes sense.
General chat under Agora.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that'd be pretty much it.
Listen, would you fuck with someone who was charging at you with that on their shield?
Nope. Be like, what?
I have a question, actually, Ali. So, I think just by the nature of Theros being very different to well, ancient Greek D&D is very different from traditional D&D. I think in terms of the flavoring around that. So, and I think for all of you, this was like the first, I guess, non-traditional D&D, like was in like whose flavoring was so different from traditional D&D that you've all played. Like even something like Eberron still has elves and things like that. Like, this is so, and like there's an overwhelming theme, at least I've noticed when I've built each one of your characters with you guys, of like you bring one concept and I'm like, okay, yes, but what about this with this in terms of like what if we take X, Y, and Z and then put, you know, P, B, and J instead? I was like, as in, I keep the core of your character, but I pluck like a lot of the peripheries off and then reflavor them also just to make them gel. As like, well, what about this instead of that? And so ultimately, I definitely noticed that almost all of you have come with one idea that's then been morphed into mostly the same idea, but with more than a few tweaks. And I think it's especially prominent with you, Ali, because I've seen the NPC botch in you know, alternative campaigns, so I know that there are stock variants. So how different is Bacchios? How different is Bacchios to what you originally envisioned, and I guess what do you think of that, and how much of that was sort of in the moment when we built the character versus, you know, just developing it over time?
Yeah. Botch has kind of been with me since I started playing D&D so many years ago. He was my first ever character, and I've sort of morphed and grown him as we've gone on. I think what's really different about him in this campaign as opposed to all of the others is that I never really saw the point of making Botch have any redeeming factors in the other campaign. He is deliberately nasty, mean, evil, and generally is unpleasant to anybody around him. And for me, riding the line between being an asshole versus being an unlikable person has been something that I've really enjoyed being with Botch, because here's the thing: he is immature, childish, fiercely inappropriate in this campaign. But I feel like he's also got redeeming factors that means that he wants a redemption. You know, he's older now. He's older in this campaign than he is in any other campaign. He's getting into his middle ages now, and he wants to have a good lineage, and he can't have it until he redeems himself. So I think that's the key thing between different versions of Botch and what I've really found out about him over the last nearly year and a half that I've been with you guys in this campaign. Yeah.
And how much of that? I stop me if I'm wrong. I assume none of that was originally planned. I feel like as in terms of like that, the amount of variance to Botch, or like, tell me if I'm wrong. Like,
none of that was planned when I wanted to bring him in. It was really the way that I, as a player, not as a character, but as a player, found the group dynamic to be socially. In previous campaigns, there was no emphasis on long-term relationship or RP. It was more a case of, here's the quest, let's do the quest, let's do the fight, let's get the reward, what's next in the itinerary. So I think that's one of the really good things about this group, is that there's a healthy balance of all the different elements of D&D. And so none of what Botch has become over the last year was planned. It just happened because of the group that I found myself in as a player.
Yeah, I think as well, I do think it was a good move. Again, being modest for a second here, floating the whole Clothis idea in front of you.
That was a stroke of genius.
I do think it was for the best. I think originally you wanted to stick with Theros as well, right?
I wanted to go from Iroas to Morgus and back to Iroas, but I think that shift into a goddess that thrives in all order through chaos, I think, was spot on, because chaos is a part of who Botch is.
Yeah,
and that element of piety, that element of direction, really nailed it.
Because part of it as well was originally as like, I wasn't against that idea you originally had. I felt like you would, just by virtue of the nature of the idea, be starting with such a lower piety than everybody else that you'd be missing out a little bit.
Yeah.
So Clothis was originally my workaround in terms of, okay, like, what if during this whole time there was a wild card that took an interest in you, and sort of that's why I floated Clothis. And I thought I chose Clothis in particular because, number one, there would be an existing connection, because Tanis, the Oracle of Clothis, already existed at this point in time.
Yeah. And
two, I think Clothis definitely embodies a lot of those sort of warlike aspects that Eros does as well. Just through more like a broader aspect of the imperiousness, like the immutability of fate. It sort of has that sort of certainty that has like a war god has as well, but with I guess like a cleaner edge to it, or that's perhaps not the right term, but like there was a twist on it, if you will. Something is like I could tell absolutely that Botch was an established character. It wasn't like you told me as much, and it's like and I think choosing Clothis in particular sealed the deal to set Bacchios apart distinctly in many ways from previous iterations of Botch. I think it's richer for it.
Oh, very much so. I like this version. Now, I didn't like the other one. I wouldn't want to be around them in any way, shape, or form. If they were IRL. I mean, there's definitely some people I've come across in D&D that I think IRL would probably be lynched by society because they were just the most unpleasant people in the world. But I feel like, this version with Clothis coming in definitely gave him the depth and the I suppose what the flaws and the strengths to actually be a well-rounded character.
And absolutely. And I got a question actually, and this may fall flat slightly, but when I played as a player in that not one shot, as in like that more overarching campaign as Diallo.
Diallo.
And you play, and I saw Botch, that version of Botch, as someone with a son who he had genuine care for. Be honest and show me up if this is me being presumptuous. How much of that existed before Bacchios?
Oh no, that actually did exist for quite some time. Except here's the thing: Botch had a son who, in game, when I was playing him originally, when the DM dropped that on me, because I had no idea that was something that was sprung on me by another DM. He, basically mirroring previous experiences that I've had, Botch told his son in game to go fuck himself, and that's something that stuck with me as a player. In terms of the kind of real psychological pain that can kind of cause someone. So I thought it would be really nice to have redone that moment in in a sliding doors type situation where you see what would have happened in the other way. And that was my way of trying to feel better about my previous decisions as a D&D player. Not that it matters, because it's just a fictional story that exists when we're playing. But still,
it's a fictional story we invest ourselves into, so I totally empathize with that.
Absolutely. So, but I do like to try with the beauty of D&D being so versatile and being able to then shift one idea from one game to another, which I do as a DM and as a player all the time. I like to see what works and what doesn't work. So, for me, Bacchios is now Theros' character, and I use other areas of D&D one-shots or where he randomly comes into play to test out new ideas so that I can beta test him for this campaign.
That's really cool, and honestly, that makes me feel special, and I mean that sincerely in terms of I don't know, like I definitely have an imposter syndrome a little bit as the DM of this campaign, somewhat, in terms of like, God, these 7 people show up every week to hear the story I have to tell. They must be leading me on or something, right? But you guys,
man, you do a great job.
Stop it. Nah, I appreciate you guys every step of the way. Awesome.
I have one more question for Bacchios.
Bring it. What have you got, Xanthi?
Okay. Remember back in the one shot that we did, level 5.
Oh man, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can tell you guys exactly when.
It was like
November
or December 2021.
2021, yeah, 21.
Gersh.
Yeah, but Hilera found Bacchios in a cave cuddling with his great axe. Now I'm wondering, does he now cuddle with his like twin blades, or does he still like get out a big old great axe to cuddle at night?
I would say no.
Spoon between the two of them.
I would say no, and the reason for that is Botch no longer feels the need to take comfort in inanimate objects because he actually has meaningful relationships in the real world. Because remember, before Bacchios joined Tempest, he spent 5 years in the wilderness alone, and it was only through him finding this group of people, one of which happened to be a friendly Acronian with a penchant for stupidity, chaos, and talking way too fast, that meant that he stopped seeking solace in inanimate objects and started seeking solace in the people that he was with. So I don't think he would be spooning Numeras. He would be he hasn't even thought to use his great axe of spite in a while, so
I'll say canonically though,
great axe overnight it's just in the great axe is just humming, I'm so lonely.
I'll say
I am sure.
I'll say canonically though, just due to the amount of power thrumming through them, Nimiras as like it just does not go below 25 degrees Celsius. So on a cold night, they may be like a good little space heater, good little thermos.
Oh, I did not know that, but noted.
Oh, actually, there we go. There's a question. How are you finding Nimiras? Go for it.
I like it. I've only ever used great axes as a barbarian before, and having a couple of swords that have a bit more utility that also then roll in as well nicely with a couple of feats that I've got that allow botch to not only attack but also defend is just brilliant. It gives me much more utility because previously, from a gameplay perspective, as a barbarian in this group of casters, I would run in, attack twice, bonus action rage. I'm done for like 30 minutes. Whereas now I have I have way more to do and way more to consider. There's way more mechanics that I can employ legitimately as a barbarian around this group of high-level casters, all of whom have so many options. So yeah, I really, really like that.
There was definitely 1 second. It was definitely so I remember reading a theory and this informed a lot of what I did when designing your different pieces of Divinity, and it was actually to do with the Ninja Turtles, believe it or not. And it was to do with like there was like this headcanon around why, because why Master Splinter gave each of the Ninja Turtles their different respective weapons, and it was to teach them each a lesson. I assume everyone is roughly familiar with the different archetypes that the Ninja Turtles, the characters are. So Raphael, the most aggressive, bloodlusty of the group. Which weapon does he have? The Sai, a primarily defensive weapon that is, first and foremost used for blocking and is designed first and foremost to promote patience and sort of cool-headedness. Designed to teach Raphael that the importance of balance and patience and technique and clear-headedness. Michelangelo, the most wild and least patient, the least attentive of the group. He's given the most complicated weapon, the nunchaku, which require an incredible amount of concentration and precision. Designed to teach him that he cannot get by on sort of reflexes alone. Sort of to teach him discipline, to teach him focus. Donatello, the sort of technologically minded one of the group, is given a bow staff, like a wooden stick, to teach him not to rely on technology first and foremost. And Leonardo, the most level-headed one of the group, opposite to Raphael, is given the katana, the only outright weapon, to teach him that there are times when one must kill. So the idea of giving them something that's inverse to what they're accustomed to teach them a lesson. And I definitely was inspired by that somewhat. Botch, first and foremost, rushes into things, charges, relies on bloodlust and fervor and raw power. Given precise short swords that have utility to them, to in the same way as Raphael is, to promote balance and discipline and inner peace. Xanthia, as well, a well of inner peace, was, much like Leonardo, the clear-headed one, the one who sports, was given a piece of divinity that promotes raw power and destructive energy to teach her the defiance or the sort of impetus to take life and to sometimes be strong enough to effect the change that they desire. And I guess, yes, Skotinos as well, to a degree, to be sure. Just the lesson of Xenagos in and of itself. The cautionary tale to sort of remind them that with, not with great power comes great responsibility, but the responsibility of being the one who dares to flirt with lines. Just reminding them of sometimes it can go bad. And Bithynia, on top of that, an item that can take on additional spells from any class. A character who is incredibly intelligent, has a wealth of knowledge, to remind them that there's always something new to learn. And there's but yeah, there's definitely been an underlying theme. Sorry, what was that, Virla?
No, I just said like, and now there's just us left who have to earn it.
Okay, I'm just hoping that Amalia's item is just going to be like a rapier or something like super precise, or a dagger, or just a shield.
No, okay. As a partway apology for shattering her axe, I did tell her the kind of item her piece of divinity was going to be. So Violet does know that. But you can attest, Violet. It's not what people would expect.
Yeah, no. It's basically you would expect her to have like another weapon, but it's not that.
Gloves. It's going to be gloves.
No, it's a G-string.
Yeah, it just doesn't even G-string. Okay, all right. Well, that's an image. Moving on.
You can cast Wish at will without expending your spell slot.
I wish that I was blind to not see what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Oh, this group, I swear.
All right, and that leaves Amalia. Amalia, did you have a story in mind? You don't have to.
So, basically, what I did was, in true Violet fashion, is I did bullet points for a story I was going to write during the week when I had a day off. Now, when I have a day off, I tend to sleep in. Did not get to sleep in the Friday, and I had stuff to do. And then I got called into my second work, so I never got to write my story. So I have my bullet points.
What do you want to do?
Well, while this was going on and you guys were answering questions, I did kind of in my head, like, go into kind of the lore of the bullet points I had.
Do you want to just riff and we'll take it from there?
Yeah, okay. So this story that I technically thought of bullet point wise is not about Amalia, but is about my campaign 2 character, which Ali and Romeo only know about. Ali wanted to kill her in Romeo's birthday one
I
shot.
didn't want to kill you. I just wanted to shut you up for 5 minutes so I could get some lore out in the one shot.
Yeah, like a campaign 2 character is basically like all of her brat like tendencies like in like just channeled into a character.
Yeah, like Amalia is my fluffy soft side of like rainbows and being cat-like. And then Cleo, who is my campaign 2 character, is like my brat real life self in there. And bitchiness in there.
I'm gonna find Cleo like immediately an NPC boyfriend who knows how to use a paddle just to like keep her in check.
Or water, like, so it can stop her fieriness.
Yeah, we got like a little like squirt gun. But continue.
Yeah. Okay. So it's gonna be like first person. It's gonna basically be me as Cleo explaining Cleo's day-to-day life of her being a teenager. So today again, I don't know why she follows me outside. She's so fucking annoying. Oh, I'm talking about my little sister, by the way. Her name's Enyo. She's so fucking... I don't even know why I hate her, but I hate her. I don't like her, and I wish she was never, ever, ever born. Okay, my dad can't hear me. That's good, because if Daddy Daxos heard me, then I'd be in big trouble. And then my mom gets involved, and my mom is so annoying because she loves Enyo. Enyo's my little cousin. I also have 2 older brothers. I love my brothers. One of them got dad's firepower, and then the second one got mum's water power. So...
Can I just like sorry, super quick to interrupt. They both got mom's water power. That was the thing.
We did not discuss that, and I changed them. So one of them has dad's power, and one of them has water, and I have fire. And
We'll talk about it later. Continue.
Anyway, so the school had a party. I wasn't allowed to go to the party because I was grounded. But I snuck out, and then she had to follow me. Like, why would you follow me? You know, apparently I'm badass. I am a badass. But you're a sissy, so, like, I don't get why she followed me. Anyway, she decides to follow me. And then I get in trouble because she followed me. Like, how was I meant to know she was following me? Like, okay, yes, I set fire to the school. Whoops. But now I'm stuck at home. I can't go to see my friends. I can't even go to the hottest guy's house party that I was invited to. Because my little sister had to follow me out the house. I don't get it. Oh, and apparently she loves me. And I'm her idol. And blah, 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 blah. Oh, and Dad doesn't even let me get to see Auntie Amalia and Uncle Scotty because, you know, Uncle Scotty was showing me, like, cool potions and stuff like that. And then Auntie Amalia is training me how to fight and stuff, and I love her. And Enya's like, yeah, I have Auntie Amalia too. Nya, 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 nya. I'm gonna kill her one day. Like, if I set her on fire, like her room on fire, like, you know, I can't be held. Like, she borrows my clothes too. Like, get your own stuff. Did I mention I hate her? Like, I really hate her. Yeah, I'm gonna set fire to her.
Okay, I will just say that I did specify that when we were chatting about stuff that the two older brothers were both got their mother's naiad
Oh, hold on,
traits.
wait. Cleo would be the only one that got Daxos's fire powers.
No, your younger sister did too.
No. She gets water.
We'll chat about it later. But okay, the two older brothers were definitely both like got the naiad. Like, so the way I've ruled it with half nymph, like if like two half nymphs have offspring, it's one or if they're not the same kind, it's one or the other.
So it's not like a quadra-nymph.
No.
No,
Well, it is a
but
quadra
saying
nymph, but the actual like traits they inherit, it's like it's an all or nothing thing. It's like they're either all fire or all water or light or all, you know, yada yada.
But saying that, Cleo, the way we've kind of designed, like, what I thought she would look like is she would have one fire eye and one,
Sure, but like
water
her
eye.
hair and her powers is all Oread.
Yeah.
Like the blue eye is for flavor, like to be sure, but like in terms of the actual like racial traits she has from like D&D mechanic standpoint, and like her predominant features, it's all fire. And so the two older brothers in the what we were chatting about would both be water.
And so would her little sister.
Keep telling yourself that.
That is how I'm gonna write it, and if I get to the second campaign, and that is what you will deal with.
Remember, the daddy character is my character. I can do what I want with him.
Yes, but the little sister has water too. If she has fire, I will do things to you in real life that will be more torturous than you breaking my axe and me beating you up.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will.
I love his second generation Daddy Daxos.
Oh yeah, that's right. That little that little nugget is gonna come to fruition at some point.
Is that what we're calling it?
What? Fruition?
What, Aster? I meant that whole
Look.
thing.
As a player, I'm very good at remembering names, and I don't think of nicknames all the time. I couldn't remember his name, so he became Daddy Daxos, and now I can never remember his name.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I honestly was like uncertain if anybody would pick up on Aster at all. But yeah, no, Tamara, the sleuth, picked up on it, and so yeah. But I'm at a loss of what questions to ask regarding Amalia, because she has and I mean this in the best way possible, a simplicity to her that is quite, like there's a core to her that's you can like a reliability, I guess. Like, you know, Amalia's Amalia.
She's quite loyal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even to Bacchios, which is, you know.
I thought the fisticuffs fight that they shared was one of the cooler moments in this campaign. Just full stop.
Oh yeah, I did like roll penny.
Second to, weirdly enough, the sparring that you did with Jason.
Oh
Because you had
yeah.
a sparring session, and it's weirdly that and that was kind of a moment that I saw that was almost like where you kind of like not transferred you didn't have a new, it wasn't, you kind of like got what you kind of lost as when Jason left from Bacchios, was kind of like in that sort of like that camaraderie of combat. But yeah, no, you had a sparring session with Jason, and yeah, that seems to be the thing. It was good. But yeah, so I think both those sparring sessions at two completely different moments of the whole campaign have been really good and informative for Amalia. So.
I have a very broad question, if no one has questions.
Yeah, go on.
Because how do I say this the right way? I don't know. I didn't think of this beforehand. I always got the vibe from Amalia that she wasn't interested in romance. Because, spoiler, Hilera has had a crush on Amalia for a long time. And I didn't do anything with it because I felt like Amalia wasn't interested. When did that change, or were you always interested?
I'd like to know this myself, because I can attest that she told me, like, the Violet, La Rafaela, the person, that she wasn't interested in romance, that Amalia wasn't about that. So, like, what you're talking about, Vila, was a bit of a curveball for me, too.
Okay, so the way that kind of went about was originally when I had written her, like thought of Amalia as a character, was because she was kind of mentally and like emotionally and physically kind of abused as a child, to the point where the only person she genuinely loved was her mother, and her dad kind of, you know, fucked her up to the point where, you know, she's got what's the word? She's got issues, like in trusting new people, which you can all kind of attest to because of the way I've treated every single one of you in one shape, form, or another. So it takes her a while to trust someone and kind of like love them and that. But as the whole of like Tempest and as Amalia started to get more comfortable, she realized that technically she does want love, because she loves all of you like insanely. Like Jason was technically like a father figure she wished had. Scotty became the bestest friend she's ever had, even though she was kind of really like scared and weirded out by him with the whole blood thing. Cynthia was like the cool kind of like aunt slash like sister she could have always had if like she had a sibling. Like that's how she imagines the bond. And then the first ever time she obviously met Hilera, she was just like very, very protective over you. Like you were her like little squishy, and she didn't want to hurt the squishy. So like, I don't know if you realize, but every time we have like a fight or something, she puts an echo in front of you, because she's like, if someone touches her and tries to kill her, I will go ape shit. And then the one thing I kind of did past time without Romeo even knowing, I kind of wrote like little things that her mum and Amalia would do when she was little that her dad didn't know about. So like, for instance, they would always go up and climb into the mountains and like pick flowers and stuff like that.
Why would you not tell me this?
Oh, there's like whole paragraphs and stuff.
Oh my
like,
god.
I like to keep some things to.
That's not how this works. I'm the DM. I'm supposed to weave that shit into, like, God. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this
Anyway.
works.
Yes, I know. Amalia is my first ever character that I've written and fully played with. Sadly, I only got to play with like 2 games then. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole with Amalia. Anyway, flowers was the one thing Amalia always loved, but didn't say anything about it. And I don't know if you know this, but the first time we ever saw Delisa, she was covered in flowers.
Mm-hmm.
She's always covered in
So
flowers.
it kind of brought her back. Exactly. So it kind of brought her back to like the time when she was with her mum, and she kind of liked that. And then that sort of just blended. And then also she was like badass during the fight as well. So Amalia. So I've always thought like Amalia as she doesn't go for male or female. She just kind of goes for person. And she saw flowers and she was like, I like the flowers. And then Delisa kind of proved herself when she was like fighting and like killing people. Amalia was just like, and mate, this is good. So yeah, that's just kind of how it went. Anything else?
No, that's so cute.
I did have one but actually, because you kind of alluded to it, this as being like the first main, let's say your first PC, like for a full-on ARG. What things have you learnt, or what things have you kind of like taken in terms of like playing a character for an extended period of time that you'll take with you to like your future games? Because playing a character for a long time is definitely a lot different compared to if you've just played loads of one shots, if you've just kind of played like occasional things, when you get to be invested with them for a long time. So just curious what you've taken from it, from being with the longest surviving PC that has survived 100 episodes so far.
Well, she's kind of, because I don't know if you go back to like the first ever couple of episodes, I was really quiet and not fully engaging with like the rest of you, because I generally didn't know how to like play D&D, so I was just kind of testing the waters, which, let's be honest, I still don't know how the fuck I'm still alive.
Mood.
But honestly, like now, I think because it's with you guys as well, you're making me feel like more comfortable to like fully roleplay and just explore. I feel like that's probably, if like in future D&D games, if I was ever to join like another campaign, I would just take like just sort of exploring the realms and not being scared to like talk. If that makes sense. But that's about it.
Sense. Yeah, all makes perfect sense.
Alrighty, that would be the, I guess, everybody's story. Alex, I know you have a hard out of 10 o'clock, and I want to be mindful of that. I guess my main question is, are there other questions? Do we want to open up to like a free-for-all, or do we think this is a good place to come to a tidy conclusion?
I'm happy. This does feel. I agree. This sounds like a nice kind of.
I agree. I just want to be cognizant of.
I felt like I could talk until like 2 a.m. talking about characters in D&D. So
that's true. And
it's like, do you want to stop now, or do you want to keep going until the point where you're supposed to be like in work 2 hours ago?
That
yes,
is,
I do, but I've got real life.
And I am cognizant of that Venus flytrap, so I want to be mindful of it. This feels like a good out, but if there's pressing other things, I also want to be mindful of that. But
I mean, maybe someone in the audience has a question.
yeah, if anybody in the audience does have anything they want to ask about, speak now or forever hold your peace. I believe Rebecca, who she dropped out a little bit ago. I hope everything's all right. But she posed that question a little bit ago, and we did not get a response. So barring in the next few minutes us getting a response, I'm I'm okay with bringing it to a nice, tidy conclusion there. I love you all, and double goes for anybody who deserved to be here tonight who could not. Paige, Phoebe, you know, Phoebe, Loki, like in that first episode. I miss you guys. I love you guys.
What I will say about Eslin is me and Paige have talked in depth about this in other D&D campaigns. Jason fully goes and like they visit each other on the regular and have like coffee and parental chats and shit.
Greek coffee.
That is very, very cute.
Yeah.
That was a joke for Violet.
Yeah, no, I got it.
That makes me. That's a happy. That's good.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad just doing e-time.
It's honestly such pair of vibes.
The kids having finally left the roost, they can relax. They don't have to worry anymore.
That's exactly like the whole concept of like, oh, we need to find these like holy relics of divinity. Like Jason and Esli, if they were still there, they'd be like, absolutely not. You're all far too like unequipped for this. You are going to stay inside.
Well, about unequipped, I don't know if that's true after the dragon's hoard they recently found. But honestly, like Phoebe, Loki, Paige, Calliope, Defili, Rhiannon, all of you, Lizzie, lovable Lizzie, Ray, Andrea, my brother, Minos, just what I think the turnaround that happened in this campaign showed me.
You forgot Zoe.
I did not forget. Did I not mention her immediately?
No.
Well, then I can only apologize because, of course, Zoe is instrumental. Cordelia. For Alex, if you don't know, Zoe, who's Ali's girlfriend, played Cordelia, which was one of Calliope's sisters. We sort of wove that in. But, yeah. Oh, Eudokia, Daphne, I would be remiss.
Yes, Eudokia.
Listen, I got a lot in my brain. Like,
We've had a lot of.
yeah.
Well, 3 years.
I think
true.
above all else, what that has taught me is that D&D is a group effort. It is an ensemble cast, and Tempest is not just one gathering of individuals. It's a promise. Tempest is the idea that no matter what life or the world will bring, that good friends and a place to escape, a place to work through all that, a vehicle, a MacGuffin to make sense of it all, to whether that be comforting or understanding or all of the above. Tempest is a state of mind, you're right, Tamara. And that transcends anything, be it, you know, time spent in campaign or whatnot. Tempest is, you're all Tempest to me. Every single one of you. And to quote one Professor Isidore, you're all remarkable students. I am richer for having known every single one of you. And on that note, shall we do a raid?
Yes.
Alrighty. Raid channel is For Shame Not Honor is live. Shall we raid them as we always do?
That's like a plan.
Oh, Tempest, my Tempest.
Very good. thanks you all so much. We really appreciate it. We are DC30. Take care. Have a wonderful evening.